The content of this channel is for mature audiences. Parental discretion is advised. You're tuned in to the Green Gorilla channel. Please make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell notification button. And please, feel free to share the video. Thank you. I don't know if you can hear me. Uh-oh, there we go. I cut the mic on. My bad. What's good, everybody? I'm the G with a PhD, and you're tuned in to the Green Gorilla channel. It's the place where black men can express themselves freely, straight up, no chaser. Before I get things started, I want to give a shout out to all of the members of the Green Gorilla channel. I'd like to give a shout out to Ryan Jackson, hiphop.catv, excuse me, Black Wizard ADOS, Coach DC, The Remedy, Kashif Caldwell, Infamous Chillin', I Am Black Man, John Reads Too Much, Nachetcha, Leroy Honeycutt, True King 337, B Hillfire, Forrest Windu, Michael Caviness, Urban Nomad, Raphael Brown, Barnolas, Kyle J. Sura, I'm Just Jules, The Book of Ronin, Ab Media 83, Damon Harris, Brian McMurray, Mr. Lou Meth, TD Hip Hop Media, Drew Main, Shot Talk Live, The Face, Mr. Heat, David the Man, Afro Analyst, NEU, Ronan Martin, Camp Low, Issa Abdul Sahir, Sir Anthony, Deshaun Nolly, MLR, Charles Rogers, Black Dog, Universal 178, Black Swerve 404, Rashid Barnes, Aaron Smith, DH, See Truth the Revelator, Gold Professor, The Nameless Protagonist, Black Pill Net Start, Author Unknown, Odd Collar, Dr. Tiasan Johnson, Brian Williams, Kalan Jakala, Sherrod Martin, Ricky Dawson, Cedric Bowman, True 7360, BK Born Shaheed, James Washington, Hostile Adept, Seventh Coast Dojo, W. Apparel 1, Rogish the Billmonger, I Care, Lady Miss Thing Green, BGS Ibmore, and Marvin Battle Jr. Thank you so much for being members of the Green Gorilla channel. I appreciate all of your help and all of your support for helping me to improve the quality of the content of the channel. Thanks so much. Here's a round of applause for you guys. Yeah, so that's some applause for you guys. If you are inquiring and you're here for the first time about how to be a member of the Green Gorilla channel, well, here's how. What's good, everybody? I'm the G with a PhD, and you're tuned in to the Green Gorilla channel, the place where black men can express themselves freely, straight up, no chaser. Today, I want to introduce you to my new membership program that consists of 5 levels where you can invest in the Green Gorilla channel on a monthly basis and receive level-specific perks. Memberships are special because they improve the quality of the content of the channel and will help me to be able to keep the channel going. Now, to participate in the Green Gorilla channel membership program, all you have to do is hit the join button, which is located right next to the subscribe button on my channel page. Now, for all of my subscribers who decide not to participate in my membership program, nothing will change. The content will keep coming the way it always has. Thanks for watching, and be careful out here, people. Bless. Okay, so we're back. And, I know y'all used to hearing me rant and rave and fuss and cuss and all that kind of stuff, but man, something just happened an hour ago. Kind of really upset me. It kind of pissed me off a little bit. And I think I might be starting to get sick. And I hope it ain't this COVID shit, because my throat is starting to feel scratchy. My nose is starting to run. I don't know how all this shit starts off. I got a little headache. I can still smell stuff. So I'm hoping I don't have the COVID. But I have been out and about for the past few days, whereas for the past few weeks or so, I've been kind of cut off and isolated from people. But I'm hoping I ain't coming down with that shit. But, it's crazy, man, because I told this woman, man, that I was dating, don't come over to my house. Don't come to my house if I don't communicate with you ahead of time. Don't pop up to my house. Don't do it. But she did it. Not once, not twice. This is about the 3rd time that this woman, the 4th time she's popped up to my house. Now, we all know that if any man were to pop up at a woman's house, not one time, not two times, not three times, but about four times, what would that woman do? What would she do? She'll probably end up calling the police. She'll probably end up calling the police. If I showed up to a woman's house, now I haven't communicated with this woman, man. I don't want to date her. I don't want to be, you know, in the cut with this lady, man. I don't. It's just real talk. I don't want to do it. But at the same time, so I see guys saying, call the cops, get a restraining order. And maybe I should, because you would think after now, if a guy has not been dealing with you, has not been talking to you, has not been corresponding with you, has basically told you, whenever you come to the house, look, man, I'm not opening the door. I'm not opening the door, man. I got somebody else in here. I'll holler at you later, man. Don't come over to my crib, man, unannounced. But you keep coming. Now I don't want to fuck this lady's life up by putting a restraining order on her. I really don't. But I guarantee you, if I was doing that shit, she'd have already had a restraining order on me. It's just crazy, man. It's crazy. The shit that, women get away with. And I'm guilty because I'm letting her get away with shit that, I've rarely encountered a situation like this. I could see if I was dating a woman for years and years and years or something like that. And, we got a history or whatever the case may be. But damn, one time, two times, three times, four times? That sounds like some crazy shit to me. Sick shit to me. And then I ain't hollered at you for months and months and months, and then you just pop up to a motherfucker crib. I should have never brought her to my crib in the first place. That's what it is. You better be careful out here, fellas. You don't know what these people are thinking. You don't know what they're feeling. You don't know what's going through their heads. You don't have any idea. So you better be careful. But it pissed me off. Because I don't do people like that, man. I'm one of the type of guys, man, if a woman starts giving me some no act right, I'm off of it. Unless, of course, I'm intertwined and tangled with the woman. We're in a living situation or something. You can't just run from that. But if I'm not connected and all of a sudden I get these kind of issues, I'm off. I feel a vibe like you ain't down. Okay, I'm off. Bye. I'm on to the next. So I just don't understand it. I don't get it. So, and I'm just saying it's not something that men do, just men. It's something that women do. So, just be careful out here, man. I'm glad I ain't get involved with her for real. For real. So anyway, man, I'm not going to rant and rave today, but I do want to go over something I've been through before. And I'm going to take a break. And when I come back, I'm going to get to it. And I swear to God, man, I'm not going to curse and fuss and cuss and all that kind of stuff tonight. I just don't feel like it. I'm not into it. So let me fade this music. And when I come back, we'll get to it. Okay, we're back. I'm the G with a PhD. You're tuned in to the Green Gorilla channel. And I think you can see that. I got to make sure if you can see it. Yeah, I think you can see it. Let me look at this comment, though. Somebody left a comment. You need to handle that ASAP, GG. Set up and protect your boundaries, homie. Then my man, Mr. He says, end this quickly, Doc. We can't have you getting caught up. I can't get caught up if I don't open my door. You know, she is not getting in. Okay? Then the Unsunken one says, pop quiz. Thank you so much, Mr. Heat. I appreciate that. He says, squash that mess quickly, however. You have to, Doc. Can't have you getting caught up now. I'm not going to get caught up, bro. I swear to God, I ain't going to get caught up, man. Because I'm not interacting. I'm not dealing. So, you know, it is what it is. You can't get me caught up if you ain't coming in. It is what it is. So anyway, I'm assuming that you can see this. So I read this article maybe about 4 or 5 months ago, like maybe a little bit later than that, maybe about not later than that, but earlier than that, maybe about just 2 to 3 months ago. And I want to revisit it. It's an article written by a feminist. And the article is entitled The Personal is Political. Now, I don't know if you've heard of this phrase before, but it's like a very popular phrase in feminism. And it's meant to illustrate the ways in which the personal lives of women are actually political agendas for women. Okay. And the reason I'm reading it now is because, you know, I've been hearing some things here and there about the difference between what black men need to be doing in terms of their personal health or, you know, their personal, you know, spirituality, you know, healing and so on and so forth. And versus, you know, other more practical goals and aims. Now, I don't know what you know about social movements, but I'm a social and a political philosopher, and I've had the opportunity to study quite a few social movements. And, you know, they vary in kind. There are revolutionary social movements, religious social movements, alternative social movements, political social movements, social justice social movements, and so on and so forth. You know, I could list all of them, but that's really unimportant. But what I want to say is that the feminist movement as a social movement has been one of, if not the most, the successful social movement in the United States. It has been. So, whether or not you agree with the substance of their social movement, you have to agree with the tactics, the strategy that they've used. They are experts in strategy. Now, one of the things, you know, that I'm reminded of is who's I can't damn why is his name eluding me right now? Bill Burr. He had a Saturday Night Live monologue where he talked about white women and how they were able to swing their Gucci booted feet over the fence of oppression, and that generals need to be studying them. Like, how did they pull this off? How all of a sudden did these women who were in collusion with white men who accepted the lifestyle of white men during slavery, colonialism, and Jim Crow, all of a sudden get to proclaim that they are now victims, now they're oppressed, now they're members of a minority group? How were they able to pull it off? And it just shows you how industrious, how strategic, how tactical they have been. So you might not agree with the substance of that movement, but the tactics, man, it's it's something that ought to be marveled at because they were adept at it, geniuses at it. So you might not agree with the substance again, but or the content, but damn, the tactics, wow. So I'm gonna read a little bit of this, and I swear it's not gonna be a long show tonight because again, I'm not feeling that great. My head is starting to hurt a bit. My throat is a little scratchy. My nose is running a little bit. So Yeah. So I'm gonna get in and out. Okay. So again, the person who developed this idea of the person who is political is Carol Hanish. And she wrote this paper, but it really was a memo in 1969 to correspond with other women who were, starting to engage in the second wave feminist movement. Okay. And so, anyway, it just starts off. It says, for this paper, I want to stick pretty close to an aspect of the left debate commonly talked about, namely therapy versus therapy in politics. Another name for it is personal versus political. It has other names, I suspect, as it is developed across the country. I haven't gotten over to visit the New Orleans group yet, but I've been participating in groups in New York and Gainesville for more than a year. Both of these groups have been called therapy and personal groups by women who consider themselves more political. And she puts that in air quotes. As well, I'm doing air quotes, but you see, therapy is in quotes, personal is in quotes, and more political is in quotes. And then she says, so I must speak about so called therapy groups from my own experience. So she's given an account about what she perceives to be therapy groups or what people would call therapy groups in distinction to women in the movement who would consider themselves to be more political, more political. And just looking at what she says about it, I mean, because in any, change of consciousness, any movement, any, group of people who are becoming aware of something different, in terms of thought, practice, habit, orientation, they all, for the most part, encounter the same kind of problems. What direction is this consciousness, this movement, this narrative, this dialectic, what direction is it going in? Right? And what's the best direction to head in? Right? So there are always going to be disagreements about that. There's going to be internal conflicts about what the best move is to make. Okay? So at any rate, I just want you to see what she says about it because I think we could use it as a springboard for conversation within this space. And this is what she says. She says the word therapy is obviously a misnomer if carried to its logical conclusion. Therapy assumes that someone is sick and that there is a cure, for example, a personal solution. I am greatly offended that I or any other woman is thought to need therapy in the first place. Women are messed over, not messed up. We need to change the objective conditions, not adjust to them. Therapy is adjusting to your bad personal alternative. Now, like I said, I've heard, ideas about black people needing therapy and, in this space and we're wounded or, I've heard different people talk about it. I've heard BGS talk about it, which led me to do some research. I've heard Kendra refer to it and other people have mentioned it, you know, but I tend to think in terms of this Hanish woman as it pertains to this matter. I don't think men are messed up. I don't think black men are messed up. Now, to some degree, we're all messed up. We all got shit that's happened to us in our lives. Each and every one of us has encountered some fucked up circumstances to some degree or another. And we may need to talk to people about it. We need to maybe perhaps talk to one another about it, or, we might need to go see somebody, a counselor, a health professional, a mental health professional, which, black people typically don't tend to do. Black people go to church and deal with their spiritual problems or their mental problems or their cognitive problems that way overwhelmingly, or they just don't deal with them at all and they resort to chemicals or substances in order to, escape whatever kind of mental or psychological problems that they may have. But again, without even, going that far into it, I just want to say that, most men are not messed up as much as they are messed over. I tend to agree with this sentiment here. It's not that black men are fucked up and they need some sort of, healing to take place, although we all need that, to some degree or another. I can admit that. But I mean, the objective conditions need to change, or otherwise, there's going to be continued hemorrhaging. There's going to be continued catastrophe, continued trauma. Okay? So then she goes on to say, we have not done much trying to solve immediate personal problems of women in the group. We've mostly picked topics by two methods. In a small group, is it possible for us to take turns bringing questions to the meeting? Like, which do you prefer, a girl or a baby boy, or no children, and why? What happens to your relationship if your man makes more money than you, less than you, blah, blah, blah. Then we go around the room answering the questions from our personal experiences. Everybody talks that way. At the end of the meeting, we try to sum up and generalize from what's been said and make connections. Okay, so just explaining the process of what happens in these groups that are considered to be therapy as opposed to political groups. And she's always, excuse me, not always, but already drawing a point of contention between the idea that there's a difference between therapeutic groups and political, activism. Okay. But she goes on to say, I believe at this point, and maybe for a long time to come, that these analytical sessions are themselves a form of political action. And this is some stark shit that she says right here. She says, I do not go to these sessions because I need or want to talk about my personal problems. In fact, I would rather not. As a movement woman, I've been pressured to be strong, selfless, other oriented, sacrificing, and in general, pretty much in control of my own life. To admit the problems in my life is to be deemed weak. So I want to be a strong woman in movement terms and not admit that I have any real problems that I can't find a personal solution to, except those directly related to the capitalist system. It is at this point a political action to tell it like it is, to say what I really believe about my life instead of what I've always been told to say. So, in other words, here's a woman that says, look, I ain't got time to talk about my personal problems or my issues because I can handle those. Whatever personal problems or issues I have, I can handle it. And as a movement woman, I want to be perceived as a strong woman. So therefore, I'm not going to bring my personal issues to the table so that I'm going to all of a sudden be deemed weak. I don't have time for that, she's saying. Okay? Then she goes on to say, so the reason I participate in these meetings is not to solve any personal problem. One of the first things we discover in these groups is that personal problems are political problems. There are no personal solutions at this time. There is only collective action for a collective solution. I went and I continue to go to these meetings because I've gotten a political understanding, which all my reading, all my political discussions, all my political action, all my 4 odd years in the movement never gave me. I've been forced to take off the rose-colored glasses and face the awful truth about how grim my life really is as a woman. So they go on and on and on about how bad they got it, which to me is absolutely ridiculous given the context in which other people are going through things in this country, but I digress. And then she says, I'm getting a gut understanding of everything as opposed to the esoteric intellectual understandings and oblige feelings I had in others' struggles or other people's struggles. And then she goes on to say, this is not to deny that these sessions have at least two aspects that are therapeutic. I prefer to call even this aspect political therapy as opposed to personal therapy. The most important is getting rid of self-blame. Can you imagine what would happen if women, blacks, and workers, my definition of a worker is anyone who has to work for a living as opposed to those who don't, and all women are workers. Okay, well, we stop blaming ourselves for our sad situations. Can anyone imagine what would happen if women, blacks, and workers would stop blaming ourselves for our sad situations? It seems to me the whole country needs that kind of political therapy. That is what the black movement is doing in its own way. We shall do it in ours. So you can see how they're patterning what they're doing after the civil rights movement at that time. Okay? But one of the things she's saying here, keep it in mind, is political therapy as opposed to personal therapy. Now, the question I have is, let's say, for example, someone says that, we need to find a means by which to get our personal lives together before we can even begin to engage in political action. So let's say that we say that that is a principle that we're going to abide by, and we're going to use as a means by which to determine whether or not, you know, we should actually be engaging in political action to begin with at all. Okay, let's just say we accept it as true. But then my question is going to be, well, who determines when it is that a person has actually reached the point at which they're ready to now engage in the political action? Who's going to be the arbiter, the decision maker, the decider, the person who determines who's actually healed and who's not? How do you determine that? How do you figure that out? Is there a class you got to go to? Is there a specific person that you have to see? I mean, how do you know that? How do you tell exactly the moment in which, okay, this person he's healed enough or she's healed enough, so therefore they can begin to orchestrate some sort of political activity? How do you determine it? How? And look, throughout my lifetime, I've been to courses and classes, life classes. I went to the Father Support Center in the city of St. Louis and took a class there. I've been told to take classes here and there on a whole variety of different occasions. Doesn't mean that, I've all of a sudden healed everything that needed to be healed while I was taking these classes, or, that I reached some sort of enlightenment or whatever the case may be after having done so. It just means that I went through a process. So who's the arbiter of who and who is not healed? Is it the opinions of certain people who are deemed to be healed? Is it a healer themselves? Like who decides? That's just an important question. I think it needs to be answered if we're gonna have the standards that, okay, people need to be, in a some sort of spiritual sublime place. That's just my 2 cents on that. Okay. So anyway, she goes on to say, this is not to deny that these sessions have at least two aspects that are therapeutic. I prefer to call even this aspect political therapy as opposed to personal therapy. And then, all of the blame thing. Okay. Anyway, it seems to me the whole country needs that kind of political therapy. That is what the Black movement is doing on its own terms. We should do it in ours. We are only starting to stop blaming ourselves. We also feel like we think, we also feel like we are thinking for ourselves for the first time in our lives. As the cartoon in Lilith puts it, I'm changing. My mind is growing muscles. Those who believe that Marx, Lenin, Engels, Mao, and Ho have the only and last good word on the subject and that women have nothing more to add will, of course, find these groups a waste of time. The groups that I have been in have also not gotten into alternative or what it means to be a liberated woman. We came early to the conclusion that all alternatives are bad under present conditions. And I'm saying the same thing. I'm kind of echoing her here, not the substance of what she's saying, but the content of it, in terms of the form of it, in forms of the way it's presented. Like, what's the alternative for Black men? Because it seems to me, whatever condition that we're in, it's a bad condition. If you're married, it's still a bad condition because at any time the woman wants to play some funny shit, she can pull it, and then all of a sudden you're subject to a whole lifestyle change. Now you got to go to the court system, family court, which doesn't advantage you. It's a whole host of problems related to being in any kind of situation that you're in, and you're a Black man. If you're going your own way, if you saving yourself, if you're an intelligent Black man of refinement, whatever the case may be, it's still a bad condition. Whatever it is. Okay? So whether you live with or without a man, communally or in couples or alone, married, unmarried, live with other women, go free love, celibacy, lesbianism, any combination, there are only good and bad things about each bad situation. There's no more liberated way. There are only bad alternatives. Then she goes on to say, this is this is part of one of the most important theories we are beginning to articulate. We call it the pro-woman line. What it says basically is that women are really neat people. I don't even really want to get into the rest of it. But I think ultimately, you got to begin to look at the situation that Black men find themselves in. They're all fucked up situations. They're all terrible situations. Ain't none of them good. They're all bad. And the question is, how can we improve? How do we get the situation ameliorated? How do you do that? How does that happen? How do you achieve that goal? Thank you, Barry Little, for being a member of the Green Gorilla channel or becoming a member. I appreciate that support, sir. Thank you so much. Let me give a round of fanfare for that, for becoming a member. Thank you. And I told you I wasn't going to yell tonight. I'm not going to yell. Um, but, I do want to cover this subject in short. And look, I'm a Gemini, man. Sometimes I'm cool, but when I get that feeling, man, I go off. So, you know, you got the good side today. I'm not going off. I'm not in an ill-tempered mood. Although I was earlier with that woman coming to my crib, I ain't like that shit at all. Especially after I told her don't come to my house like that. But so at any rate, the point is that the reality is that, man, if black men's lives are going to change, the objective conditions in which black men exist are going to have to change. That's the bottom line. And I don't know how you propose to do it, how you think you're going to make that change come into being, but you know, I, I got ideas about what won't work. And maybe perhaps I give too little credence to protracted and to extended conversations about concepts and ideas, and perhaps maybe about the same topics, because I just don't like to spin my wheels. Even though I do talk, I do consider myself to be a man of books or a man of letters. I do know that at some point you have to act. You have to do something. You can't just sit still forever. You can't just talk and talk and talk and talk. At some point you have to act. You can't reason your way out of this. You can't have discussions and work your way out of this. You have to actually do something to get yourself out of this. That's just my viewpoint on it. Okay. Now, if you think I'm wrong, I'll leave an invite and then you can come in and discuss the various ways in which you think I'm wrong. You can tell me I'm wrong. But I want to share also with you something else. So let me go back to the display screen and share something else. Okay. And it's a quote from a philosopher by the name of John Dewey. Okay. Now, I've discussed him before. And he wrote a book called Human Nature and Conduct. I told you about that. But he's a pragmatist. That's how he's categorized and classified within the domain of philosophy, right? So his idea is, okay, well, how do you change human behavior? How do you change practices and culture, in which people live? How do you change that, right? And so he basically says, well, look, you can't reason your way through this. You can't talk your way through it. You can't hope your way through it. You can't feel your way through it. You actually have to do something. And here's what he says about it. He says, but it's in the context of a larger conversation, but he does speak to what I'm speaking about within the framework of the paragraph. He says, for however much has been done, there always remains more to do. We can retain or transmit our own heritage only by constantly remaking of our own environment. Then he goes on to talk about the piety of the past. Piety to the past is not for its own sake, nor for the sake of the past, but for the sake of a present so secure and enriched that it will create yet a better future. So don't just hold on to the past for the sake of the past. There's no piety in it. It is the past. Now, if we're going to preserve something from the past, it must be that this tradition or these habits or practices have to have some sort of impact on improving our future. We don't just respect or honor the past just for the sake of honoring the past. It has to be instrumental. It has to be used for a purpose as a means to an end. So then he goes on to say individuals with their exhortations, their preachings and scoldings, their inner aspirations and sentiments have disappeared, but their habits endure. because these habits incorporate objective conditions in themselves. So, in other words, he's saying that, look, habits endure. Even when traditions fall off, the habits endure. Okay? Because the habits incorporate themselves into objective conditions, conditions that exist outside of our heads, out of our feelings, but in practices, in institutions. That's how they endure. Okay. And then he says, and also, the activities that we engage in are also habitual. Everybody knows that well, maybe not everybody knows, but the actions that you commit typically are habitual. You don't think about the things that you do on a day-to-day basis. You just do them out of habit. And then he says, so will it be with our activities. We may desire abolition of war, industrial justice, greater equality of opportunity for all, but no amount of preaching goodwill or the golden rule or cultivation of sentiments of love and equity will accomplish the results. There must be change in objective arrangements and institutions. We must work on the environment, not merely on the hearts of men. To think otherwise is to suppose that flowers can be raised in a desert or motor cars run in a jungle. Both things can happen and without a miracle, but only by first changing the jungle and desert. So he spelled that wrong, I think. That's supposed to be Dessert. But I don't, it is what it is. Or maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. Sometimes I err. I'm not perfect. I fuck up just like everybody else. So um getting back to it. So you got to change the objective conditions. The conditions in which you live have to change. That's why they say, like, say for example, you're a drug addict. You got to change your friends, and you got to change the places that you hang out. You can't hang out at the bar anymore because you're gonna want to drink. It's gonna be that much easier for you to take a drink. Bottom line, you can't hang around the same friends because they're gonna be drinking around you, and they're gonna offer you a bottle. If you want to change a habit or a practice, you have to change the objective conditions in which the action that you want to change or the practice, you gotta change the environment, man. You can't just change opinions and minds and feelings. You have to work on the conditions in which people exist. That's why when Moses, left Egypt, and he had to leave Egypt because, there never would have been a corresponding adjustment in the behavior of the Jews had they stayed in Egypt. That's why he had to carry them out to the promised land where they could develop their own habits and practice and traditions. And that's why Moses was perceived as the lawgiver. I mean, just to make an analogy, not to, talk about the historical reality of that, but just to say, by means of reference, this is why that was necessary. The change in objective conditions was necessary to work on the habits and the practices and the hearts and the feelings of that group of people. To develop an ethos that was consistent, they had to change their venue. Bottom line. And so I'm saying the same thing about black men in America, period. There are an objective set of conditions that are working upon men all around. And if you don't change those conditions, it doesn't matter what your feelings are, doesn't matter what somebody else's feelings are. Because I can tell you, people are going to have conflict. Men and women, whatever the case may be, they're always going to be in conflict at some point. There's no way for an individual to avoid that. It's always going to happen. The Book of Ronan has renewed his membership. Thank you, brother. But it's automatic more than it is anything else. But all I'm trying to do is allude to the fact that if you want to work on the condition of black men, I don't think black men are messed up. Do black men need some sort of healing, some sort of therapy? Maybe, perhaps. But I think maybe what's more important is working on the objective conditions. We can worry about the other two. I'm not saying I'm ruling it out. That's cool. But damn, can we work on the objective conditions? Because if we don't change the objective conditions, doesn't matter what kind of work you do on your personal. Because you're going to continue to reopen the wound. You're going to continue to have the drink again. You're going to continue to snort the line again. You're going to continue to go to the hooker again, to hit the OnlyFans again. It's not going to change unless you change the objective conditions. That's my viewpoint on it. But how do you go about changing the objective conditions in America? What do you have to work on? What do you have to, get a hold of? Well, we already know how conditions are changed in America. We already know how that happens. All you have to do is take a civic course and you know how it happens. It happens through the political process or a process outside of the political process that forces block communication to become unblocked. It's what the people in the civil rights movement did. It's what the people in the feminist movement did. It's what the people in the LGBTQ movement did. It's going to take a movement to change the objective conditions. Now, if you disagree with me, it is what it is. I would like to know what you disagree about. I'm going to leave the invite. If you disagree with me, you think I'm just talking a bunch of malarkey. Okay, well, explain to me how I'm talking malarkey. Explain to me what I'm saying that's inaccurate. That's all I'm saying. Give me the information that I don't have. Let me know what I need to know so that I can know it to change the error of my ways of my thinking about this. I don't think black men are messed up, that there's something problematic with black men that they can't get over. That's why they tell somebody, if you do ever have a case and you ever do come into contact with the criminal justice system and you get out and you're on probation, they ask you, are you hanging around criminals? Why do they ask that question? They ask the question, well, old school gamer, come on and tell me how. We need unity. Unity of what? I need to understand. Come give me the insight. This old school gamer says, I disagree. We don't need another movement. We need unity. Unity towards what? I've left the invite. I just want to hear it. I want to understand it. I want to be able to get engaged in dialogue so that I could get it. Because, like I said it the other day, put it this way. How do you determine that you're going to be in union? There's always going to be disagreement amongst people, even within the context of a so-called homogenous group. Not everybody agrees with each other. So what happens when there is a disagreement? How do you solve the disagreement? How do you settle the disagreement? Through what means? How do you bring about unity when there's discord? How do you make it happen? Because unity is an idea. Like, shit, I got family members. Sometimes we cool, sometimes we not cool. What happens when we not cool? What happens when my brother's mad at me? My brother's pissed off. What happens then? What happens if we get into a fist fight? What happens if my wife is mad at me? What happens if she's upset? If I'm married, my wife gets upset. What happens then? She tells me to get out of the house, leave, go sleep on the couch. What do I do? She tells me she wants a divorce. What do I do? She tells me she wants the kids, the house, the cars, the kids, and the dog. And ain't no explanation. I don't have to give you a justification. It's how I feel. What do you do then? I'm just asking a question. Feel free to come in and write me where I'm wrong. Because, I mean, unity is an ideal, but I mean, look, you're going to have discord even in your own family. You're going to fight your brother if you got one. It's going to happen. There's no way you're going to have complete unity. It's an ideal. But the only thing I don't like is the conditions which men are subjected to in this country related to family law. How do you fight against it? How do you resist against it? You're fighting an uphill battle. And I hear you, Ricardo Davis, you fight. How do you fight that? The fight is got the deck is stacked against you. I was watching, so a brother just put out here, he said he was watching Arami Osei Fringpong's channel the other day, and he heard him say something about I want to go back to that because going back to that is going to do some work for me, right? If I can find, I can't find the quote right here. I'm looking for it. But he did mention it. Let me see if I can find that damn quote. Oh yeah, the funky academic. He says the funky academic did a video about Maslow's hierarchy of needs being counter-revolutionary that's relevant to this topic. And so I was watching the video of the funky academic, and this is what he said. He said in this country, and he goes hard in on white women, okay? And one of the things he said that was, I think, profound to me about it was that the whole notion of womanhood is one in which women don't have to take any risks, none. They basically put all of the risk on men. There's no equal distribution of risk in this society related to men and women. And then also, you have the notion that women somehow are more morally virtuous than men by default. There's never any argument for it, it's just an assumption. So you take the assumption that women are more naturally virtuous than are men, and then find yourself in a jam or in a disagreement with that woman. How do you arbitrate that if in a culture in which you already, as a black man, you're already public enemy number one? How do you change the conditions in which that disagreement is going to carry out? How? I said it before a long time on this show. Women at the current moment have the rights of men and have entered into the world of men. But they also want the perks and all of the benefits and the advantages that come along with being a woman, but they are fulfilling the roles and the duties of neither. Neither one. Because they don't have to. They've made it such that they don't have to. And that has to be pushed back against. That has to be pushed back against. Not just at a conversational level between men talking about it again and again and again. At some point, something has to happen to where men begin to talk about how these things impact and affect them, tell their narratives and tell their stories to the world, and begin to try to change the objective conditions, to try to change the policies and the institutions. Because men are going to couple up with women. That's going to happen. That's natural. It's unnatural for men not to be partnered up with women. That's not natural for men not to be partnered up. For men to be like, oh, I'm going to do what I'm going to do. I'm just going, I'm going to go my own way. I don't want to deal with them. The only reason you don't want to deal with them is because of the inordinate amount of power that they have related to the relationships that you engage in with them. That's the problem that you're having. It's not the problem that these women are arguing, because the women have always argued with men. They're always going to argue with men. The problem is not the arguments. Fuck it. If the arguments didn't come with an inordinate amount of power, fuck the arguments. You wouldn't give a shit. You'd be like, so what? You can argue, you can be mad as a motherfucker. I don't care. But now it's set up to where you get into an argument, it's a whole bunch of tactics and devices that women can use in order to get your ass out of the house and to demonstrate that she's got the power. So I'm saying that the objective conditions in which these relationships take place needs to change. And so men are saying, okay, well, if I get a high value man, a man making a lot of money, that's what's going to satisfy me. Not necessarily. I said on the show yesterday, you got a whole bunch of men who are doing outstanding in relation to what the system in this world announces in the Western culture, American culture, what it announces that black people have to do or any other group of people have to do in order to be successful. And that should, quite naturally make the women happy. They want men who are able to provide and protect. Take Emmett Smith, for example. His wife is clowning. You're not showing me enough attention. You didn't even open the door for me. You walked past me. I mean, just like silly little shit. And I ain't saying that men don't do fucked up shit. Men do fucked up shit. But women also do fucked up shit. And when they do it, we're still operating with a system that gives women all the perks that they used to have, but now they've entered into another domain. You can't have your cake and eat it too. That's the problem. The problems that men face have to deal with institutions, not necessarily the women themselves. The women are always going to be problematic. This shit is old as what? I don't know. Old as men and women themselves. And that's why they come up with the adage: can't live with them, can't live without them. It's the institutions that are the problem. So at any rate, man, I left it open. If you got anything to say, you can come on in and say what you got to say. If you disagree, you disagree. If you agree, you agree. I know I'm an asshole, I'm cantankerous, or whatever the case may be, but don't be afraid. If you got something to say it. If you disagree, you disagree. I'm amenable to revising my viewpoint based upon somebody coming up with something to me that makes more sense. But shit, I don't know. I think I'm right about this. I think women. I don't think men are messed up. I don't think black men are messed up. I think the conditions in which black men exist are fucked up, and they're going to continue to be fucked up until the objective conditions in which men exist are changed. And they're going to have to get together and change them and to argue for what's in their best interest. That's what black male independence and agency actually, to me, is about. That's what it's about to me. Women did it. They did it. They made several moves in concert with one another in order to ensure that their best interests would be served. What are we doing? What have black men done together in order to change the objective conditions in which they live? What? Nothing. I mean, there have been men in the past who've done something, but never just for black men, by black men, isolated to issues only germane to black men. I've never seen anything like it. I've never seen a movement like that. Just saying, I'm just going to do my own thing. I'm just going to leave the whole world alone and just do me. That's the answer? Fucking with another kind of woman, another race of woman. What? And that's what I'm talking about, Latif. This is the point I'm making. She says, my baby mother flexed on me in family court with the help from the courts. Of course. I've been through the family court system. And the funny thing about it is, at the time, the mother of the child left the baby with me. Just left. She's going through postpartum depression, was, you know, get feeling loose, whatever the case may be. She left the baby with me for weeks. All of a sudden, she gets possession of the baby back. I'm unfit to be a father. Explain that shit. I ain't want to have nothing to do with her on a relationship level anymore. But how all of a sudden do I become an incompetent father after you actually leaving the baby with me? So then you got to go through a legal process. And typically, the court is going to side with the woman because of the tender years doctrine, which has changed to the best interest of the child doctrine. But I mean, you already know what it is. Typically, they're going to say that the mother is going to be the more competent, or the child is going to be you know better off in the mother's possession. So now you got to go through all that shit. I think like I was talking to Dennis Sperling the other day on his show. Perhaps maybe it's best if it's automatic that both the men and women split custody 50-50 down the line. Not only visitation, because that's some bullshit. Fuck visitation. I'm talking about if you split from this woman, then it's 50-50. No child support, because the child is with you 50% of the time. The child is with the mother 50% of the time. There's no need for child support. That would change a whole bunch of problems. And it would be for the best interest of the child for real, as opposed to, having women be able to flex and do what they want. That's just my thinking about it. But tell me if I'm wrong. Maybe we just need to have better conversations with the women. That's going to change shit. As long as the safety valve is there for them to do whatever they want to do, I think they're going to do what they want to do. They say absolute power corrupts absolutely. If you got power over somebody, you're going to use the power. Have you known anyone to willingly give up their power? I've never known anyone to willingly just say, okay, well, I have, the advantage here. I'm just going to give up the advantage. Maybe when you're playing a game with somebody who's, it's all leisure and y'all doing engaged in recreation, but like a real life conflict, who doesn't utilize what they have at their power? Who doesn't utilize the full weight that they have to bear on the situation? Who does that? My dumb ass, because I should have called the police on the woman who came to knock on my door earlier, right? Women are actually taught to flex their power if they have an advantage with the system. Now, in the ideal situation, we wouldn't be going through these kind of problems. People would get along. We'd have the kind of unity that old school gaming was talking about. But I don't think we're there. I don't think we're there. And as long as women have the opportunity and the capacity and the ability to utilize the system to their advantage, when they get mad at you or pissed off, they're going to use it. And that's unfair. Max, I don't know what that means, Max ML. I don't know what you're getting at. I don't know. Is BMI and BMA the reaction portion within the Hegelian dialectic? I mean, look, for every action, there should be an equal and an opposite reaction. That's what I think. So I'm calling on, what is it, the third law of dynamics? For every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. At some point, men have to begin to react to what's unjust. It's not fair. I'm not talking about healing and improving the personal relationships that I have with individual women. I just don't think there's no way you could actually improve on that goal. How do you do that? How do you even measure that? Whether or not you've improved the relationship with a specific group of people? How do you determine whether or not you've actually reached that point? I don't think that's measurable. But you sure can create institutions that are more fair, that would be able to resolve differences more equitably. I think you can do that. And I mean, it's a response. It's a response to unjust conditions. This is not a matter of personal relationships to me. That's why I've always said I don't have a personal relationship channel. I'm not going to teach you how to be better off as a man with a woman, how to take charge and how to, make her do what you say. Fuck all that. I'm not interested in that. That's just not what I'm interested in. I'm interested in making sure that whatever kind of man you are, whether you're a meek man or a so-called resolute man, a strong man, whatever the kind of man you are, that the system is set up in such a way that none of them are capable of just being, exploited and subjected to manipulation. That's what I'm talking about. Those are the kind of conditions that I want to obtain for men, particularly black men. I want fair and just conditions to obtain for those men. That's what I'm looking for. Ricardo Davis, what's going on, my brother? Welcome to the stream. How are you?
I'm good, Green Girl. What's up?
What's good with you? How are you?
Yeah, I'm good, man. I'm just listening to your live stream, and I'm saying, what men see long term, women see short term.
I get it. I mean, maybe there is a difference, between men and women in terms of the, depth of vision. That's cool. But at the current moment, if I were to say, well, where's the evidence of that? I mean, because men aren't reacting. Well, I mean, we're having conversations with other people. We're having conversations with women. We're talking about behavior we find to be abhorrent. But I've always said, you can't change behavior without being able to punish behavior. If you can't punish behavior, you can't change behavior. There is no system of punishment that black men have a hold of. None.
Of course, we do.
What is it?
Improve our lives, work harder, create businesses.
Well, put it this way. So, in America, there's a legal system, a judicial system, and an executive branch of the government. So, executive, judicial, legislative. Okay.
Mm,
Now, if a judge says you need to be punished, the executives are going to come, which one could argue like the police execute the laws, or they mete out. Either they're keeping people safe or they're taking you to jail
right.
to get you to the point where you're going to be punished. Or in different societies, you could be flogged for punishment. You could be stoned for punishment. You could be killed and hung up on from a tree for punishment.
That was in the past.
But what form of punishment do black people? I mean, even forget the gender war.
Right.
Forget gender issues. Just
All
let's
right.
talk about any kind of behavior whatsoever or the breaking of any kind of law. What kind of judging to change the objective conditions in which people behave? What decision making process are black people arbitrating over to decide who gets punished and how? You
Ah.
have you can never have control over a community that you can't punish.
No, but you can start with yourself first.
Okay, so,
That's a
so
that's an individual choice first.
yeah, I'm just saying this. So put it this way.
Right.
Let's say you got yourself together. You're great. You're
Right.
awesome. But you don't exist in isolation from other people, correct?
Right.
You exist alongside other people. You live next to them.
Hmm.
You work next to them. You have interactions with these people. What if somebody does something that or takes your property, or they behave towards you disrespectfully, or they I mean, how do you orbit between that? Do you call the white boys to handle it for you? How do you handle it within the context of your own community?
No, you call a lawyer. Can you do that?
That's what I'm saying. So there, all I'm saying is there's no way for black people to control their community unless they get control over the laws of their own house.
But
You
but
can't you can't control people's behavior without changing laws and institutions because the institutions are that which direct people's behavior. The only other thing you can do is to shame people. And
but
that's what women are doing right now. They are shaming men and changing their behavior.
right, but you see the thing, Gigi, the collective of men is why the women are behaving the way how they're behaving because we haven't been we black men don't have a council. We don't have a council of men that say, okay, what can we do to correct m- our own behavior, and in turn let them see how we're improving ourselves, so that we can affect them and let them come into our surroundings, so we can change their behavior collectively.
You know, the only thing I'm reticent to think about on that is this. Again, let's say I said this yesterday. Let's say all the women in all black women decided to be perfectly agreeable, right?
You can't get that. That-
You're not
that-
going to get that, but just let's say for the sake of argument that they are all of a
mm,
sudden just perfectly agreeable, which is you'll never get those conditions, but just as an ideal. They're all cooperative. They want to work with you. They're doing everything they can to work in concert with you and to help you reach your goals and you to help them reach their goals and to give them what they want. Okay? You still exist within the framework of a system that they still dominate you in it because the laws favor them. This is the problem. The problem is not to having a dispute with women. The problem is how the disputes are settled. And we don't have any power over those ways of settling those disputes. We're not involved in the process of settling the disputes as a culture. You can't control young children's behavior unless you can punish them. We don't like, I mean, this the Black Panthers realize this. Okay, y'all gonna walk around acting the fool on the streets, we're gonna punish you for it. We're gonna pull up some guns on you and get you right. You're not gonna do this anymore in this neighborhood. Or else you're gonna see us. And we're gonna fuck you up with force. That's what the government does, doesn't it? I mean, when the police come pick you up, they got guns, don't you? I mean, don't they? They got billy clubs and shit, don't they? You there? He burned out. I don't know where he is. He's still there, but he's not. Okay.
you hear me now?
Yeah, yeah, I can hear you now, man. For some
Okay.
reason, you went off for a second, but so all I'm trying to say is,
Right,
and write me if I'm wrong about this.
right.
If you don't have control over how people are punished or rewarded, you have no control over their behavior. Take a child. The way that you're able to direct the child's behavior is to either reward or to punish the child, right?
But the child has to have respect for you.
How do
That's
you
it.
teach the child respect?
You show him right from wrong, and you have to be
How
a
do you how do you show a child right from wrong?
you have to be an example for them
You got
in
to be
terms
an example.
in terms of showing them right from wrong, teaching them, sitting down, talking to them. So they have an idea that you're not a kind of person that goes around and just be responsible and
So
all
what
of that.
happens if they do something wrong? What do?
You reprimand them, you scold them,
You reprimand them, which is punishment, right?
right? Yep.
And if they do something good, what do?
You reward them,
You reward them. So you're able to direct the actions of a child through punishment or rewards.
right?
But what if you have no ability to do that in your own society, in your own group?
You kind of have to build yourself up to be that person.
It's not,
So,
but see, we're talking about something on an individual level. I just
yeah,
don't know how effective things are at the individual level. Because if we wait for individuals, every individual to get themselves straight, we'll be waiting forever. Because human beings are imperfect.
but
There is no perfect person. There
you have
are
to
no absolutely virtuous persons.
know, but as a collective, if if you have a few intellectuals that see things, and everyone is not gonna see the same see things on the same level, but you can come to an understanding with each other. So once you have that broader people and you can talk to people and they understand what you're saying, you kind of build that community of understanding and harmony so that everyone can see the same things are almost the same things on the same level.
Well, hey man, when you figure that formula out, you let me know how to do that, man.
Oh, hey, but that's why that no, but
Because
Gigi,
yeah,
Gigi, I respect you guys a lot. I watch you guys, BTS, and a lot of black guys on YouTube, so I kind of get the understanding of what you guys are saying. I get it, but it's that we just have to reach more people. That's the thing. We have
but
to
how do
reach.
you reach people? How do you reach people? You through
You,
reason?
YouTube is like social media is one way you can reach people. Probably if you can see a few guys on the street and you sit down and you talk to them, probably they didn't understand um what we're saying. Probably some of them wouldn't understand until if you just sit down with them and talk to them and say, hey man, we you can learn something new, bring something fresh to them that they didn't know. Because a lot of guys don't know about this stuff because they weren't taught that when they were young.
I hear you,
So
brother.
it's
I
like
hear you.
they turn a switch on in their head. It's like a light just kind of spark in the head, and they're like, that kind of makes sense. That does make sense, and we didn't understand this until someone like you went to them and you talk to them and say, hey, you don't have to think that way. You can think a different way. Have a conscious understanding about what's going on around you, and you kind of build a community around that. But it will take time. It's not perfect, but it does take time. And I listen guys like you. You know what I'm saying? I listen guys like you, and I have a better understanding of how things are now.
True. I mean, we're trying to bring consciousness out here. I mean, but at the same time, my goal is to act on the consciousness and not to just sit back on it. It's like, okay, uh, there are a whole bunch of things out here that are impacting our lives, and I think they need to be changed. And I also understand the value of consciousness raising, but I think we can get stuck in the the mode of consciousness raising. You could start to get stuck there and never do anything. We could just
Right?
talk,
No,
talk, 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 talk about the problem. Just imagine that you're a doctor, right? Like a medical doctor,
no.
and you analyze that there's a problem going on in the human organism, and
Right.
you talk about the problem and you study it, you look at it. At some point, you develop a diagnosis. Now you have to come up with a prognosis and a plan for treatment. Otherwise, you're just looking at sickness and watching it fester and going back and forth about the nature of the sickness. I mean, at some point, you have to have a practical plan for treatment. And I'm a pragmatist, so I'm trying to find ways to act such that we can ameliorate the sickness.
Right.
And I don't think that. I mean, to be quite honest, I don't think that it'll take a lot of work. All it will take is just putting the mirror on the behavior of everybody else in addition to ourselves. Like you're not blameless, but we're getting scapegoated as being the root of the problem, or
Right.
masculinity, or you know. our, innate pathology, our patriarchal ways, our desire to imitate white people. Like at some point we have to contest this, and
But
not just on an individual level,
right. But you
because
got
I know the steps that look. Let me tell you this: how do you combat something that's taught at a university level, that comes from the university, the people learn it there, then they take it off to the grad schools that they go to, and they're taught it there as well. And then they take it to their jobs, and they're taught it there as well.
Mhm.
They're taught it in the police departments. They're taught it in law school. They're taught it, in the corporate, positions that they have, or the companies that they work for. They're taught it everywhere. That's why recently, like Trump came out with race and sex stereotyping. He came out with an act like, no, you're not teaching that everywhere.
Right.
We're not going to let you teach this anymore. This, saying the white people are innately oppressive or that men are innately oppressive, that's coming to an end. Of course, that's going to be, that act is going to be rescinded as soon as Biden gets in office. They're going to rescind that. But how do you change things if you got a set of institutions that are reinforcing what it is you want to change?
Yes.
How do
All
you
right.
how do you do it? Just by having more conversations, talking
No,
about it more?
no, no. But with conversations, you can have that. That's one thing. It's not gonna be the end all though.
There's
You,
another guy here. I don't know. Somebody's got some noise going on in the background. Y'all can feel free to jump in anytime you want. Ricardo, uh, you can stay. Mr. Heat and Charlie Brown, what's up with y'all? Y'all here?
Yep, yep.
Yeah, I'm
What's
here.
on your minds? What do you think? Maybe I'm wrong. I could be wrong about this. I don't think I am, but maybe I am.
Nah, so Ricardo, I think what you're suggesting isn't wrong. I just don't think at this point it's enough. We've done that. We've had the personal conversations with individuals, and now it's time to execute. I think we do need people in places where I don't even want to use the word propaganda, but where the stuff is being pushed. We need opposing views and minds in those places. That
So yeah,
documentary. Go
so
ahead, G.
so it has a documentary is one such thing. Even one documentary won't be enough. Okay, but it's a step. Okay, because you have to begin to contest these ideals in every domain in which these ideas are proliferated. So
Exactly.
if it's happening at the university, there needs to be a group of people in professorships who are teaching something different or who have the audacity to say something different. I mean, you
Exactly.
do have people like Tommy Curry is one such person who's beginning to push back against the whole narrative of feminism and intersectionality, and to say that it doesn't really account for black men's experiences. You got other people in the academy who are talking about this. Their voices need to be amplified so that you know these commonplace ideas can be contested, and it's beginning to happen, but it needs to happen more often, and more people need to be engaged in it, right? And they need to learn how to do it and how to contest these ideas. But it's very difficult to fight this if it's only happening in one domain, or if it's only happening on social media. It's going to take more than that. Is all I'm saying.
And you're
It's going to
exactly
take a
right.
lot more than that. A whole lot more. I mean,
E-
think about it. This is what you have right now. You have the inertia of a system that's been in place for what? 60, 70 years. Then you have cultural practices that are in place, right? Where men, for the most part, allow women to have what they want. That men don't know how to punish women or hold them accountable without feeling bad about making them accountable. Like, I mean, like even look at the criminal justice system and how men and women are sentenced differently for the same crimes, right? Look at the risk that men take into society versus the kind of risk that men take. This is why that Arami or the Funky Academic video recently came out. Why I'm not a feminist. I would suggest you go take a look at that, because when you look at that video, he's like going step by step. Okay, number one, women are assumed to be morally superior to men. Like they're just more virtuous. Sugar and spice and everything nice versus snips and snails and puppy dog tails. First of all, that's just erroneous to begin with. There's evidence of women being vicious everywhere. All you got to do is look for it and see it. You know,
Yeah.
the primary abusers of children are women.
It's
I mean,
instead
you see females in nature that are violent everywhere. They're everywhere violent. Black widow spiders, for crying out loud, violent. You know, praying mantises, violent. Lionesses, they're the ones that go out and hunt, violent. Like, I mean, you know, hyenas, they're violent. So the very nature that there's somehow some virtue connected to essentially to womanhood is a European fabrication that comes out of what, like in the Enlightenment era of Victorian womanhood. These are concepts, right? Connected to a specific way of life to come out of a specific cultural tradition. And we need to learn those and to know those so that when we hear it being utilized, we can say, okay, no, that's not going to work on me. But you can't use what you don't know. You can't utilize a weapon that you don't even know is a weapon. You can't shield yourself from a weapon if you don't even know that you're being, you know, assaulted. You don't know. So any of the other men can jump in anytime you want to. Any of y'all can come in.
I was
I'm gonna go
just
for
yeah.
another 30 minutes and then I'm
I
out of
was
here.
I was just gonna say about the documentary. If people want to understand how powerful it is, and I think somebody mentioned propaganda. I don't know who said that, but everything is propaganda. Everything's being propagandized against black men right now. You just don't see it because they're more skillful at it. It's a trade craft, though. But what I want to say about documentary, how powerful a documentary can be, and unfortunately, this is going to be a bad comparison. So forgive me, Green Gorilla. I don't mean no disrespect, but
Oh, go ahead, bro.
those of you that don't know, there was a guy named named Mike Skullock. I think that's his name. Anyway, I don't know if you recall, McDonald's used to always have that thing you could do where it was like supersize, or a lot of the fast food industry was like giving like these grandiose amounts of food for a couple of cents more, or even that big 35-gallon 7-Eleven thing
Your
thermos.
big goal. Big
Yeah,
goal.
the big, right? So anyway, he made a movie called Super Size Me. It was a documentary where for 30 days he only could eat McDonald's, and if they asked him to supersize, he had to say yes. And at the end of that 30 days, well, he didn't really make it the full 30 days because his doctor told him like 15 or 17 days in, he was like, "Hey man, you got to stop this, or you're really going to die. Like, this is killing you." Like he was eating McDonald's 3 times a day, supersizing every time he was asked, which was pretty much like 100% of the time. So anyway, that documentary, when it came out, this is like back in the early 90s. It changed the fast food industry, where an institution like McDonald's, like how they say the NFL owns Sunday, well, McDonald's owns hamburgers and fries. An institution like McDonald's, they canceled out the supersize, and the whole fast food industry went to offering more healthier options, which is why now you have like apple snacks and salads. You can get substitutions, right? That's how powerful a documentary was. And this dude did it in the back of his, like literally like in the back of his bedroom in the corner, keeping his wife awake at night, editing and stuff. And I think he must have spent like 12 grand on it. You know what I'm saying? But the point that I was making is that a documentary such as what Green Gorilla wants to do would be extremely powerful. Not to mention it's stacked with credited PhDs. From what I see of the list, everybody got a doctor in front of their name. So it's going to be very hard for the black feminist pundits and the white supremacists to how you say
Discredit.
discredit it. It's going to be damn near impossible. But more importantly, if you sell it as an educational video, then you have something that's going to influence minds for the next 20 years in reference to black men. Because let's be honest, like the sympathy, not that we need sympathy, but the sympathy for others is being monopolized. We're not even seen as like anything that happens to us, except for getting struck by lightning, is seen as our fault. So it's like, if you make this documentary or educational piece, you got it in public schools. You got teachers showing it. You got it being shown in Europe. You got it being shown all over the world. Even if the discourse is like, "Oh, this is BS." Look at the black men. They make all this money playing football. Even if that's going to be the discourse, people still can't deny that it's in film. It's on celluloid. It's there to stay. And after a while, it's going to be considered, maybe not, within our lifetimes, but at some point, it'll be considered diverse, and there'll be nothing nobody can do about it. And that's when we're going to see real change. So that's all I got to say.
Well, thank you, Black to the Film. Appreciate that. At some point, I know I got your email address, and I intend to dialogue with you. It's just I got a lot of stuff going
Oh, no,
on,
no, 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 you cool. But I was just saying, I wanted you to know that I got you on the editing because I offer that in kind. So, if you need some, when it gets ready to go and you need somebody to help you with that or whatever, I got you, brother.
I appreciate that, bro. At this moment, man, I'm just still trying to galvanize support so I can get the thing out there. And I guess to some degree, maybe I'm too ambitious, but I've always been ambitious.
Nah,
Um,
nah,
no,
nah,
maybe
nah, nah.
maybe I'm trying to put the cart before the horse. Maybe I need to have a
No,
certain amount of subscribers before I begin to even consider
it's
a
it's
project of this
it's not
magnitude.
it's not you. It's not you. What it really is I'm going to say this. So again, you know me. I'm blunt. I'm like a hammer. I have no tact. I'm just going to say this. Uh, we are all not as well off as society wants us to believe. Um, I think 90% of the problems people have, especially black people have in raising funds online, is that the source we have to go from is literally a speck. And of that speck, maybe a quarter of them are actually well off where they have any discretionary funds. I mean, this is the data. If you go in Antonio Moore's show, you can see the data, right? Who has
Right,
discretionary funds, right? It's not
right.
that they don't want to, but especially like I don't even want to go into the whole COVID thing, but COVID really like blew everything
Yeah,
out.
it
But
decimated everybody,
yeah,
man.
yeah. But
It has.
basically it's just that black men don't have discretionary funds. We really don't. We don't have here and there money. You know what I'm saying? I mean, black women somehow they're able to do that, but for us, between child support and all the fugaziness that go on with getting caught with them folk, you know what I'm saying? We just don't have the discretionary funds. So I guess if a guy's living with his moms and he's like, well, I could give this to Green Gorilla or I could keep my cell phone on, he's going to keep his cell phone on. So I don't think you're being too overly ambitious. It's just that the community you have to poach from, they just don't have the means, and that's always been a problem. So it's not putting anything before the cart or the apple or any of that stuff. It's just that I feel that our community, like right now, like I'm about to do this piece on GoFundMe, right? Because on GoFundMe, they letting people raise all this money for these murderous police, right? Whenever they shoot a black man and the black man die, this cop he loses his job, he gets millions of dollars literally overnight. So in effect, what GoFundMe is doing is putting bounties on us, right? So a cop is like, man, I'll just go shoot me a nigga, and then I'm gonna go get $1 million on GoFundMe overnight. You know what I'm saying? That's in
Yeah, I've seen
effect
it.
GoFundMe putting bounties on us.
But no, this is the thing, man. I've seen a lot of people, man, give money to Black Lives Matter, and I see a lot of black men giving a lot of money, man, to content creators. And I've even seen people give me money. So, put it this way: black men, my family always told me this, and my mother specifically, man. She said, you know what? And it's fucked up for me to say it, but she say niggas buy what they want and they beg for what they need, man. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, motherfuckers can come up with what the money for what they want, and then they'll figure the rest out later. They'll beg somebody for what they need. But you know, my thing is, man, look, it's thousands upon thousands and thousands of men in this space, man. And I get it. Like I know that I'm relatively new here, but I know some super stellar brothers, man, and I know what they're talking about. And we didn't just come upon these ideas because we started listening to YouTube. It's not. This is not what like. We've been talking. Like you go to my Facebook page, man. Before I even knew that there was a such thing as the Black Manosphere, I was talking about this shit. You know what I'm saying? So the sentiments of people are converging, man. And something needs to happen outside of the domain of social media. Something needs to be official. We need to make a statement. And I could go asking for money from organizations, but I don't want them to be able to have an impact on the outcome of any of this. You
Right.
understand what I'm saying? I don't want them to be able to point and say, well, can you talk more about this? I want you to talk more about fuck that. I don't
Yeah,
want that.
nah, none of that,
I
none
don't
of that.
want any input editorially or substantively from any outside agency. You know what I'm saying? So and I kind of agree with T Fitness here, but right now there's a lot of haranguing about who's most successful, who's the best, who's got more subscribers, who's really making good content. I'm like, man, look, you can make all the great content in the world on YouTube, but YouTube is a microcosm of social media. It's a big entity now, but people aren't like changing policy at the level of YouTube. It's just not happening, man. I mean, it takes a pro. You can use it as a tool now. I'm not saying that it can't be used as a tool to drive awareness, but once you get the awareness, man, you still have to act in the real world, and you have to do something, and you have to bring people together. You got to get the best and the brightest minds who can attack it, not just on an interpersonal level, but at a policy level, who can affect the movers and the shakers, who can begin to start and to raise a little bit of ruckus in spaces that traditionally wouldn't take on these ideas. They wouldn't even absorb them into their conversation. And increasingly, they're going to have to, especially if men begin to speak up as in these spaces. Right now, in the academy, man, men don't even have the room to speak up and to talk about issues like this. A
Yeah,
lot
I
of guys are
agree.
tight-lipped, man. I mean, they don't say anything.
Yeah, I agree,
This will at
Gigi.
least give them guys the opportunity to say something because I've heard them, like I said, I've seen some of these guys, man. Let's close the door, man. Close the door, man. And then the realness comes out. You understand what I'm saying? So
Code switching.
exactly. So, but I mean, everybody is afraid to speak, especially in corporate America, in the academy, and in the political arena, because they feel like it'll hurt them. You
It
know,
would. I mean, it would hurt them because they have blackballed the hell out of black men who spoke up, like Leonard Jeffries. I think that's his name. Is that his name? Leonard Jeffries was
yeah,
one of
that's
them.
a guy. Yeah, yeah.
Benjamin Travis. They blackballed him. Travis Smiley. He got halfway blackballed, but it was enough. You know what I'm saying? We could go all the way back to Arsenio Hall. You know what I mean? So it is true, but that's because, like I said, and this is what I always tell people, like, I shouldn't be giving away all my game on this open channel, but I'm gonna say this. See, it's like our progenitors, they dropped the ball. We shouldn't be having to be even involved with this connectivity to the oppressors as we do. So we should be able to have like I went to a HBCU and I was like disappointed because I was like it seemed like it was so much influenced by the oppressors, even though the one I went to, the oppressor started it, but I was just disappointed because I was not expecting to have the oppressors be all up in the administration, all up in the lectures. I'm trying to talk about the pilgrims, the villains, and they like, oh, you get an F for saying that. It's like, but the point I'm just making is that it's not our fault. I mean, I know the exact time and place where the screw up happened, but we need to have our own spaces that are credible institutions where we can do that type of speaking, and we don't have any of that. So the people that are in the ability to do that, they know what's going to happen to them, and so we're not going to get anywhere. We just have to start from day one. We have to pick a day of the
But
year, maybe this year, and start from day one, and then build that space. And then maybe right now, somebody whose son is 12 years old, he grow up, he get a doctorate, then that's a space for him to function out of, and he could really have that conversation and not have to worry about being blackballed and all that other stuff.
right, right. Well, like so, black men have been speaking up, like even within the space of the academy, I've spoken up, man, and like I did a paper on hip hop, man, maybe about 4 years ago, and it was about hip hop and black men, and it was about hip hop and how black men, had all kinds of moral lessons intertwined into their raps. Even if the raps were grim and enacted violence or whatever the case may be. I mean, especially in early hip hop. But there's a group of people that want to say that hip hop somehow is back when it first started, it was more liberatory, more political, and more positive, and that now it's just devolved. My argument was, and I kind of agree with this brother named Marcus Aurelius, keep it 100, who comes on that like hip hop has always been uncouth. Listen to it from the beginning. But anyway, I was having this conversation, and then this feminist asked the question like, well, well, what about women? Why don't you mention any black women in the context of your paper? And I was like, well, because the paper is not about black women.
Mm.
You know what I'm saying? I mean, just that simple. And like I said, the personal is political. I'm talking about what I know personally and the things I've gone through personally. And the personal is, if it's the personal is political for women, the personal is also political for men. I mean, it just stands to reason that if it's good for the goose, it's good for the gander.
Mm-hmm.
Bottom line. But
Well,
and look, at the end of the day, what the documentary is not trying to establish is that somehow men are perfect, or that like men don't do things that are wrong.
mm-hmm.
But the idea is that men often are subjected to the same things that they're accused of enacting on other members of the community. And you can't solve a problem by lying about it or using an ideology to only demonstrate, one person's fault. You can't heal a relationship that way. You can't heal a problem that way between
Mm-hmm.
people. It won't work. Okay. And so, and the problem is look, again, you got television shows, movies, books, classes, seminars, you got press, blog pieces, all articulating and pontificating about this viewpoint.
Mm-hmm.
And how do you change it? Or were we just gonna talk on YouTube for and have some arguments with some women, what I'm saying, and go back and forth? I'm not saying that that's not constructive to some degree, but I mean, come on, man, you got classes, seminars, movies, books, television shows. You got to, you got to match them, man. You have to begin to match them, and the only people who are going to generate the revenue to match them are us, because nobody else is going to invest in us. We're already vilified. We're the only ones who are going to bring it to fruition. The question is, how do you want to do it, man? Do you want to do it with strategic moves, or do you just want to, play tiddlywinks, play checkers on the board? Like, how do you want to approach this problem? I mean,
I
think
don't.
about it. Tommy Curry, man, won an American Book Award for The Man Not, man.
Mm-hmm.
That man he draws power. And it's very difficult, to refute some of the things that he says, but the man is vilified.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I mean, the people don't want to engage him and have a conversation. If the
Well, you,
more we talk and the more visibility and the more, you know, exposure, they're going to be forced at some point to have a conversation, man. And that's what we're forcing. We have to force the conversation. That's the bottom line. The conversation has to be forced. And right now, the communication is blocked because people have bought into the ideology. Again, it's everywhere. It's paramount. It's ubiquitous.
well, you
So
know
a
who
lot of people dropped off, but yeah.
Well, speaking of the men, not you know who? Because I actually bought the book and I'm working through it. I'm working through several books right now, but that's one of the ones I work on. But you know who he has on the cover, right? You know who he has on the cover of the book. I don't think people even understand who's on the cover of the book and why he's there.
Yeah, the young brother who got murdered for what
George
rape?
Steiny. George,
Yeah,
George
yeah,
Steiny.
Tiny.
He's the youngest. He's the youngest American executed. I think he was like 14 years old, right? They put him in the electric chair. They fried him. So understand, at 14 years old, they deemed this black male that much of a monstrosity, that much of a threat to society. At 14 years old, that they put him in the electric chair and took his life. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So that right there is how far back we're going. You know, we're going so far back. If we go back to that time, where we're at right now is again why I said, like, I can almost calculate where the ball was dropped and why while we're at a place right now where it's like, you are having you're doing your thing, but you're like, dang, ain't nobody really supporting me. But I can pinpoint it now Now moving forward, a lot of people are like, well, why don't these actors and why don't these athletes come down and give us some bread and do all, because people don't know that in that contract that they signed, that contract, that telephone book contract, there's clauses in there against doing anything about like any type of thing about their people. I don't know how better else to articulate it, but doing any type of thing that's going to change the status quo, they can't give any money to it, or else they lose everything. And that's why we're just deficient. We're just deficient financially, and that's why I say until enough of us make it, we can't even consider what everyone else is doing. They always talk about this rapper buying this and Master P buying that. Man, fuck all that. That's just that man. What about the 500 brothers out there that just graduated with MBAs? What's going on? Why ain't they reporting on that and the moves that they're making so we can align with them? You see what I'm saying? Because they not really making it. So if
I
they
mean,
just
I'll say this, man, and awareness is growing day in and day out.
mhm,
And YouTube is helping to drive that awareness,
yeah,
and that's cool. But we need exposure at other levels, man. And
yeah,
and we have to. It's a matter of how do you want to do this, man. Look, a chessboard has 8 ranks and 8 files, man. You
mhm,
can't just play on one rank and one file. The game is played. The whole board is played, man. You got to play the entire board. You can't just play part of the board. You got to play the entire board. That's how the game is won, not by one aspect. Just imagine that you only got like one kind of soldier. You don't. Your military is not split up into Air Force, Marines, the Navy, and the Army. You just got an army, a set of army grunts. That's all you got, and that's all you're looking to have. That's you can't win a war like that. You can't win. You can't perform an offensive with unidimensional troops. You can't do that. It's not going to happen. It's not going to work. Okay, and then you need different ranks even within different divisions of the military. And that's just an analogy. You need
mhm,
different people working in concert to make something happen. And you need a hierarchy and a chain of command. And it doesn't necessarily have to do with education. That's not necessary. It just takes people working in concert. And it does, like Latif said, it needs that voice. Now, a brother named PK Angel said, "Did you get my cash, bruh?" And I'm not quite sure where you put the cash. Did you put the cash towards the campaign? Because if you put the cash towards the campaign, I have it. But I don't know if your name in the campaign is the same as the name that you have on YouTube. So that's another difficulty. I don't know what people's, and I'm not asking to know people's real monikers or names or anything like that. I'm just trying to I'm trying to help, man. That's all
nah,
I'm
you're
trying to
doing a
do.
good thing. Nah,
That's
I
all.
tell you, you're doing a good thing. I'm
So
sorry.
a lot of people, you can perceive it however you want. Every now and then I get on here and I talk angrily or whatever the case may be, but that's not the sole, you know, voice that I have. I mean, that's just part of, who I am though. I don't bullshit though. Like if I say I'm about to do something, I do it, man. Like if I fail, it wasn't because of my lack of effort and dedication to it. It was just, like, hey, sometimes you fail. You know what I'm saying? But then you gotta dust yourself off and get back on the horse and go at it again. That's all there is to it, man. That's how I look at life, man. It's been life ain't for me been a crystal stir, but a brother did hit me up today, and he brought some shit to me on the 4 cardinal virtues. So I'm gonna chill today, and then I ain't feeling all that well too. He
The
hit me up with the
virtues.
FPT. He hit me up with the FPTJ, man. So you
Yeah,
don't know what that
yeah.
means if you ain't rolling with what Some people will say it's the boule or some shit, but it is what it is, man. You can talk what you want to talk, man.
It's
I
like
know
you
if
can't do
I had
nothing.
all that power, I would have been hitting switches and making changes. If I was that big.
It's
Okay,
just
so yeah, I'm pretty sure then, brother, that I have it. So I'll look for it and to see if I can find it. But yeah, for the most part, man, if for anybody out there watching now who doesn't know what we're talking about, I'm talking about an Indiegogo campaign called "The White People of Black People." Okay, and the man not talks about this issue or discusses this issue, right? But he couches it in different language. It's ultimately white mimesis is how he refers to it. Okay, or black male mimeticism. That's how it's referred to in Tommy Curry's work. Like black men are trying to imitate white people. So everybody comes out and says the same thing about how black men are trying to imitate white folks. So I don't see it. I just don't see black men trying to imitate white people. I see black men struggling to try to find a way to survive and to enter into the system that's hostile to them. What are black men not supposed to want to be gainfully employed? Or they not supposed to want to thrive and to function as much as they can in an environment which doesn't allow for their thriving and functioning? What are they supposed to do? You know, uh, you know, like I don't see black men, like enslaving anybody. I mean, black men, man, are some of the most liberal-minded people on the planet, and still we get typecast as wanting to be vicious, colonizers or enslavers or some sort of vicious abusers. I'm not bought into that idea, man. I just don't buy it.
Wasn't it
I've
an
never bought it.
article? Wasn't it an article too that kind of highlighted that the white people, black people? I don't know what column it came out of.
In the roots, the root, or the griot, or some shit like that. The root.
Yeah, yeah. So
It
this
kind
brother,
of
man,
talked the Charlemagne book too. What I forget what the name of his book is.
Oh, I forgot. Yeah, I don't read that. I don't follow that cat.
Some like some kind of privilege. Just talk to that whole privilege. But we appreciate the work you're doing. And it's much needed. I think
and even if you can't invest, man, share the video so that maybe people who can invest will. You got to also use the social media tools. If you know where the campaign is, push the campaign on your page. And then if like people, excuse me, people want to have a conversation about it, converse with them about it, but a lot of times when like I posted it on my Facebook page, and then the first thing I had was some guy, used a shaking my head gesture. And then he started, talking about misogyny and using, a crying emoji, talking about MGTOW, how, y'all want to keep up the gender war. I'm like, dude,
What are
have
you
you ever
talking
heard of
about?
MGTOW? You ain't never heard of FigTown? Like 60 years ago, black females, it's the Columbia River Collective. They decided they were going their own way then. They already had made a declarative statement that they're going to look after their own interests first. I just don't
Oh,
understand what these people don't like. Okay, and then the pretext was the black men are misogynists, and so they're sexist, so they had to resist against the sexism. And then, black men are left scratching their heads like, wait a minute. The civil rights movement had black women in it. Okay, right. You got Coretta Scott, I mean, which is the wife. I mean, she wasn't all that deep off into it in terms of a front figure, but I mean, damn. You had, you know, Rosa Parks. You got Angela Davis. You got a whole host of women. You got Fannie Lou Hamer. You got all kinds of women, man, involved in the civil rights movement. You got more women involved in the Black Panther Party than you do men.
yep.
So at that time, there were a group, a cadre of men and women working together, and then these white women came along and they infiltrated those movements, man, and they basically used the same kind of tactics as the civil rights movement to get what they wanted for themselves. And then in the end, look at where everything is now. Look at where we are now. No better off than what we were when we started the movement. In fact, in many ways, it's worse.
I was
So
gonna say, go on.
no, you go ahead.
I was just gonna say real quick that going back to what you said about all the villainous conceptions of black men. My perspective is that it's only been black men in this country dying for liberty, dying for equality. The way I look at it when I do my research, I only see black men all over the Turtle Island, all over the Americas, all over this hemisphere, dying for freedom, dying for equality, just speaking up to be paid more, meant you're deaf. Just speaking up to be treated like a man, meant you're deaf. Just speaking up to protect your woman, meant, you know what I'm saying? Any type of adverse behavior towards, it's like that scene in The Butler. It's like that scene in The Butler where the dude done had his way with the dude. It's like that scene in The Butler where the white guy done had his way with his father's with his mother, and the father's like, when the guy comes out and the father's like, yo man, that's my wife, and he just shoots him. You know what I mean? It's like black men, I don't know how they villain. I don't know how we let them get away with it because it's like if you look at everything, breaking color lines, going to my favorite story is about how they talk about West Point and black women coming up in West Point, and I'd be like, I can't recall his name, but the first black cadet to go to West Point, I remember because I was looking at going to academies like that, and I remember how they talked about how he got brutalized and he got beat up one night really bad and disfigured, and they cut him up, and then they thought that he did it to himself to get out of taking finals. You know what I mean? And post and I can't say that word, but years later though, they awarded him the commission. They awarded his family, I think it was his sister, the commission. So it's just like all these doors that are opening for everybody. They come off of, I like to say, they come off of the backs of black men. They come out of the blood of black men. Nobody else has been doing it. We got a male persona that's the oppressor, and all they do is create destruction, dropping bombs on people since I can't remember. But yet we the villains, we the bad guys. It's like when I walk out my door where I live at. I live in Hawaii. That's all I say though. But when I walk out here, I see like when I get out my car. This is how bad it is. I get out my car at the supermarket, and then people see me, and then they go back and they lock their door in their car, and I'd be like, that's that bullshit. Like, what am I going to take out of your car that I don't have? Obviously, we live in the same neighborhood. We on the same economic level. Why you feel like I see you getting out of your car, but you ain't locked? I'm gonna run up in your junk. But that's what's ingrained in becoming ingrained in their nature. That when they just see the gender and they see the color of your skin, you just a villain.
Well,
Yeah.
there a lot recently. There's a lot of well, let me just put it this way. So we already know what the propaganda is, and
Hmm.
we already know through history. Like, if I say, okay, to people who say that black people are criminals and that they're more violent, I say, well, when do you start counting the violence? I mean, like I've always said this in the academy. Like where do you start recording the point at which black violence begins and white violence ends? Like,
Hmm.
because I mean, where you starting like in the 1800s? Or you starting in the 1700s, the 1600s? Like, where are you starting tallying up violence? Because it's enough of it to go around. And then, like black people have never hung white folks from trees. They never have, had rituals where, they would torture and burn white folks and then cut off their gonads. We just don't have those kind of rituals.
Hmm.
But your people have.
Hmm.
Like when do you want to start recording violence? Like when do you want to begin the tabulation? That's what I say to them all the time because it's easy to sit here and talk about, okay, well, black people are committing crimes in the inner city. There's always going to be more crime in the inner cities, especially when there's not enough resources to go around and there's not enough jobs. And these black people aren't trained and educated enough in order to be able to take on the roles in those jobs. You're going to have crime. I mean, anytime you get a group of people together anyway, you're going to get crime in the inner city or urban environments. Okay, so they already know this. Um, but it's a hell of a thing to create this kind of imagery and iconography about black men when they know full well the kind of project that they've been engaged in for the past hundreds, the past 250
thousand,
years.
thousand, thousand years.
But to them it's civilizing. To them it was a civilizational force. To them it was a necessary evil. But I mean that's just how they characterize it themselves. I for one, man, look, thank you, and yeah, PK, thank you, my brother. But look, at the end of the day, it's like the guy who used to be on Mad Television. I can't remember his first name, but I think Avery is his last name. And he came out with this skit on Vlad, not a skit, but he gave some commentary on Vlad Television where he was talking
Oh,
about a
Godfrey.
Jedi.
You mean Godfrey?
No,
Godfrey good.
not Godfrey,
Oh, okay.
Avery. He
Avery.
used to be on Mad Television.
Okay.
But he was like, this is like a Jedi mind trick. After all the treacherous and the violent shit that white men have done, and women together, because it wasn't just something that white men did by themselves.
Hmm.
But like all of the shit that y'all did, and then the people who were subjected to it now become the face of violence.
Yeah.
Isn't that some shit? Like,
Yeah.
how did that
Well,
occur?
that's
That's
because
That's propaganda.
propaganda.
That is propaganda.
That's the game.
That is
That's
the game.
the game.
So,
I tell people like with the like the king is dead. He on his way out of the office, and I tell people like you even like I learned from somebody else why his hats are red. Do people know why the hats are red? There was a massacre in North Carolina. I forgot. I can't recall it. But anyway, the
there it
people
is.
that
Hold on. So
the
there
people that
he just, yeah, there it is. Ari Spears. I said
yeah,
Avery.
Aries Spears.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
okay.
okay. Ari Spears.
So the people that did this massacre of this black community, and I think it was Wilmington, North Carolina, they referred to them as the Red Hats. It was a racial massacre. They killed. What happened was the black people got elected to the city council, and the white people that were mad, they formed this coalition. They called themselves the Red Hats, and they just raised the town. Man, they killed everybody. Right. So I tell people when you see that red Magna hat, that's where the color of the hat originates from. It has nothing to do with him being Republican. That's bullshit. It has to do with these origins, these legacies. And you know me, my whole thing is like right now I look at us as being like rodents. They looking at us like rodents. That like we just to be stomped out. Like the brother that got shot in the back. I just heard today the cop. He's not going to get no charges. Shot the man, paralyzed the man 7 times. They like that's cool. That's normal. That's how I say if I did my job as bad as the police did, I'll probably never be employed again. But there you go, because we just like rodents right now. It's really dangerous. And last point I'll make is Takashi Notes, he had a book and a documentary called Between the World and Me. And it's amazing that this is how we keep going around in circle, right? This is a propaganda. In his book, he talks about taking his son somewhere and his son being like handled by a white person, and he gets loud with the white person. And as soon as he does that, all the white people around him get hostile, right? And he realized like this wasn't the right atmosphere to do it, but he did it anyway because that's what a man's supposed to do. He's the father, protect his child, right? And then now you got that thing where the guy's son, the guy that's the Grammy musician, his son was tackled by that lady because she thought that he took her cell phone, and he really was like, dang, should I do something or should I just record? I mean, obviously he's just recording, but it's just like what we don't realize is we all are rodents. We all having the same experiences, all the way up from the top of the CEOs, all the way down to the brother that bagged the groceries. We all having the same experiences. There's no disparaging. No, I said that right. There's no difference between us because the gender and the gender and the color of our skin equate to one outcome, and that's just to be like you got no rights, you got nothing. You just a rodent. Be exterminated like vermin. That's what I want to say. We're like vermin, and I'll leave it at that. I'll be talking too much, but if somebody else say something. But yeah, we like vermin.
I guess how do we begin to face such a big task and such a daunting task of, I guess we got to be everywhere at one place.
We'll put it this way, man. Look, if
That's what
you
the
fight,
documentary is.
we'll put it like this. All I'm trying to do is expand the space, man. Like it's like growth. If you want to grow, it can't just like I've had people tell me, and no offense to these people, but like, can you imagine being told what you shouldn't be doing on YouTube because you ain't big enough on YouTube yet to be doing that? Like,
It's fucked up.
why would you like? Just think about that, man. Like I've been told you shouldn't be selling T-shirts right now because you don't have enough followers, so you shouldn't be selling them. You need to get your weight up. I mean, you got to think about that. Like, I'm not to disrespect that brother, but like, what's the mentality? Like, you gotta be big on YouTube in order to make a big move in life. I just don't understand that. I'm confused by it because YouTube is a microcosm of the world. It's a microcosm of social media. It's not the only social media platform. It's a big one, but it's primarily used. Look at YouTube. Who governs YouTube? Okay, like who gets the $1 million hits? It's people already affiliated with multinational corporations
Mhm.
like the Breakfast Club, or especially in the black space, right? It's CNN, MSNBC. Like it's like podcasts or hip hop artists and shit like that, or rappers. Those are the ones who get the most hits. Like if I was in this game to get hits, I would be like, fuck this shit. Like I mean, to be honest, if the only thing on my mind was getting bread from this, man, dog, let me tell you, I have a hip hop channel with
Yeah.
beats.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? With just beats playing over, talking about the latest bullshit going on beefs and struggles between different artists and the various ways that they getting caught up in cases.
You could
That's
get
the
a
way to
lot.
make that bread. Like if I would really wanted to get bread from this shit, that's exactly what I would be doing. I'd
You
be
could get a
talking
lot
about
of.
those issues. I mean,
You could
because
get
that's
a.
where the money is. I
Yeah.
mean, ain't like look who got the most hits, the most views.
Mm.
I'm just saying. Like, I mean,
Unconstructed stuff.
man, I'm just saying who got the most hits and the most views. The dude like Drink Champs and Joe Budden show and you know Charlemagne the guy at the Breakfast Club and you know
Well, I mean,
that's the shit. That's the stuff that's getting the most, man.
I think that the reason that I don't know who you got that pushback from, but I mean, obviously, I don't know if you've ever seen me around in this space. I've been around in this space for the better part of 4 years, and I think the reason that you're getting a part of the reason that you're getting some of this pushback from whoever it is because a lot of these people are here for entertainment purposes instead of actually doing the work. And so
Yep.
what you're attempting to do, they don't want to see an actual stride forward in black male development. What they're here for is the entertainment value, and it's a problem, but I don't see an accurate way of addressing that. I think the best way of addressing that is probably to reach out to more content creators and ask them to chip in with the donations that they get. I think that would be a huge help and a huge boon to this movement that you're trying to get started here.
Yeah, yeah. Well, you know, like I've already attempted that. You know what I'm saying? And so, you know, I've reached out to certain content creators, and you know, I've asked, you know, for some support in the project. Some have even agreed to be a part of the project. I just, you know, and it's not just participation; it's promotion. Look, at the end of the day, all I can do is what I can do. I'm not trying to, you know, take over any space. I'm not trying to become like this breakout YouTube star. I never had any plan on doing that. All I want to do is actually do some shit that's substantive to improve the quality of black men's life to the best of my ability. That's all I'm trying to do, man.
Well, here's the thing. As a consequence of what you're doing, me and you both know you will become a known name. So, but I don't think that that's a relevant question. I think the more relevant question is what you put forward in the latter statement, which is that you're attempting to help the black community and in particular help black men and black boys. I think that's more important. And I think even if as a consequence you become, more known than another YouTuber, well, I would say that you would deserve that because you did something that they couldn't or didn't. So I think that that's a fair statement,
Well, my whole thing
regardless of
is,
how they feel about it.
well, it, my thinking is, look, united we stand, divided we fall. If we all do it together, then it all gets done and everybody's satisfied. That's all I'm saying. Like, I mean, like, what's the difference? What's the point of not collaborating and cooperating? I just don't understand it. That's the
Come
only
on,
thing I'm
lady.
saying. Like,
Come
I just
on.
don't. I don't get it. I'm the kind of guy. Like anybody who knows me knows. Like if somebody say, "Okay, I'm about to work on this mixtape," and like I had a friend that said some shit like that one day, and he was like, "Yeah, I'm about to work on this mixtape. Yeah, we need to do that." I was like, You really want to do this? Yeah, let's do it." Shit, in a week it was done. I was like, okay, because I had all the recording equipment. I was like, "You want to do it? Let's do it." And I can bring that artist on my show and play his songs, and we can go through the mixtape, like how it all started and where it began, and how, like, because I get shit done. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm not the guy. I'm not the type of guy who's gonna sit back on an idea and wait for the right time because it's never gonna be a right time. And you're gonna always have
Hmm.
people who want to try to persuade you that you're shooting too big. You're trying to do too much. I would never have achieved anything if I waited, you know, for everybody's approval to do something.
Well,
That's how I feel. You know.
you're a philosophy major, so you know there's no such thing as a right time. There's only what needs to be done. So you're doing the work and it needs to be done, and that's really all that matters. You know,
True
and
indeed. True indeed.
regardless, yeah, regardless of how these people may feel about it, it needs to be done. And so I think that's what's important. Personally, that's what I think is important.
But I don't think people are against it. But I think that also people are mindful of the fact that what if it doesn't happen? You know what I'm saying? Like what if it doesn't occur? They don't want to be associated with something that doesn't get off the ground. And I can understand that.
It's already, but it's already getting off the ground. Like PK Angel just said, you putting in the work, right? So it's already getting off the ground. You can't look at it like that. It's getting off the ground. The execution is happening, right? Right now, we doing what we call finishing funds, like what we call in film production. We call it finishing funds, right? I mean, I'm just using that as an analogy, right? Basically, it's gonna get finished. It's just the time that is going to be dropped. You could just look at it like that. You have to use a little bit, and I don't want to get too pseudoscience, but you got to use a little bit of that positive affirmation. You know what I mean?
Oh, for sure, for
I do
sure.
believe in that. I believe in that like 100%. Everybody else can think I'm crazy, but I do believe in that. So I see where, like my perspective of your documentary. I already see it because you got the doctors on board. You're just trying to get the funding right for the honorarium and the production and all that, right? So the way that I look at it, being that I come from a film production background, I look at your documentary as like already 75% of the way done. You know
But
what I'm
but look,
saying?
but
You got
black to
the
the film. This
principles. Yeah.
look. Let me just say this. Let me just keep it
Mm-hmm.
100 with you, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I did a show yesterday going off. Like
Mm-hmm.
where y'all at?
Mm-hmm.
So that was me passing the plate around. Like like
Yeah.
that's all it really was. But in addition to that, you got to think the show. I started the show that day and only had $3,300. By the
Mm-hmm.
time the show was over with, I had like 5,300.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like, damn, do I need to get on this motherfucking Yale every day until it's
Um,
done?
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
I
yeah.
mean,
Might as
yeah.
But
I
well.
no,
mean,
I
Yeah,
don't need to I don't need to
no,
yell
no,
at
no,
people
no,
because I'm
no.
not trying to be
Not
condescending to people.
No, not like that. I mean, not metaphorically. Yes, I'm just agreeing that the action gets results, right? Like
Right,
like in
right.
sales, we call it high pressure. I don't know if I got any salesmen in the room, right? But in sales, we call it high pressure. But there's a way you can do high pressure every day without it being like condescending, right? But that's what you got to do. You just got to change the dynamic. But you did it. But I say you do it proudly. I say you don't shame nobody. You ain't like some of these black YouTubers that be out here shaming black men to pony up some money. You know what I mean? Those types, you doing it in a proud way. So you just have to do that. But yeah, you have to do that. To answer your question, yes. If it's getting results, you got to do it because you just got to crack the whip on brothers. Brothers ain't, they not used to nobody giving them nothing positive. Maybe I don't know. Like I said, my alignment in the world is not the same as everyone. I understand that, but for me, I just say I look at what you're doing is you're getting your finishing funds together. You're getting your money for your distribution. You're getting your money to pay your people. You're doing, you know what I mean? I look at your project as moving. I don't look at it as just starting. So I don't know how anybody can see it as just starting. Just starting would be like we've been talking about it for a year, and you just put up the Indiegogo. You know what I mean? And it's like it's like your first time doing the Indiegogo. We're way beyond that. This conversation right here, getting the people interested is like an important part. Like we say in film production, the most important part is not completing the project, is building interest before you even finish your project. You got to build interest. So you got that part going for you. You got the interest already. You got the principles. You're just getting the finishing funds, which is going to be complicated. Like I said, because I think personally, a lot of people don't have the discretionary funds. You
Well,
know what
look,
I'm
True,
saying?
well,
true.
look, well, look. I mean, I mean, the discretionary funds. I'm gonna speak to that after I address the first thing, which is what you said, Green Gorilla, which is that you're worried about whether or not this will be successful, and I think that you need to, and this is just my opinion. You obviously are gonna do whatever you think is best. You need to continue to do what you've been doing in terms of what you did yesterday, not necessarily in the same form. But I think that probably for however long this campaign goes on for, so you have it set up for what, 57 more days, 56 more days?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, you need to come out here probably every day.
Word every day.
and make us not just like a passing statement, but spend probably 15 to 20 minutes harping on trying to get people to support it. And I know that sounds messed up, but when you know the psychology of a lot of black men, and a lot of black men are mistrusting and have a lot of other issues going on, and like to speak to what Black to the Film just said, obviously you're going to be cash strapped. We already know that, black men generally aren't, the richest people in this country. And so you need to essentially put the foot on the neck. You need to pressure it. You need to pressure the issue.
Yeah, I'm going to press it, man, because I want it to happen, man. So I kind of expected to wake up and to see the shit half full by the time I woke up after I started it, but that wasn't the case. But because look, man, let's just be honest, man. We all want to see an improvement in the lives of black men.
Oh, and another thing too. I know that you don't like participating on some of these channels and shedding, sharing any of the information that you talk about here on panels. I would recommend actually showing your face in these other spaces and using that as a means of spreading your message about what you're trying to accomplish. That's another way to do it. I know that you don't like to do it, but if you do that, it's going to get more ears to listen to what you have to say, and obviously give more promotion to what you're trying to do.
Well, I've never, I've showed up on other people's panels. Like anybody that asked me,
consistently. The campaign stunt.
The only reason I didn't want to wear my welcome out. You know what I'm saying? So like that's one of the reasons why I haven't consistently showed up on people's stuff. Is because I'm like, damn.
Beat your chest. You need to go ahead and pull your balls out and lay them on the table. Beat your chest, sir. You need to go out here and shove some you need to rub some elbows and shove some people out the way. Not in a rude way. I don't mean it as in trying to set people off, but in the sense of you're not going to wear out your welcome. We've accepted you in this space. In fact, we promote you in this space. And what you need to do is come out onto the floor. The mat's out there. Come start slamming motherfuckers. That's what you need to do. That's what you're here for.
Seriously, nah, for real. PK Angel is telling you right. I mean, that's where it's at right now.
We gotta bring in a guest pal.
Yeah.
Well, you just tell me where the platforms are, man. Tell me where the fucking panels at.
I don't want to throw no names. Oh, hello?
I pray to see you on Iron Hill.
Everybody hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, I just want to make sure. How you doing, Green Gorilla? It's good to be on the show again.
Yeah, what's good, Fire?
Not much. I just wanted to say real quick that regardless of how your project works out, whether it fails, just keep going, man, because you know what? At the end of the day, if this project fails, it's our fault in the long run. It's not yours. You have to have the support in order to you have to have the sponsorship in order to make this happen. This is not just about you. This is a collective effort. So at the end of the day, and I understand what some brothers saying that we don't have discretionary funds, but I agree with what you said. That niggas can spend money on what they want and they can beg people for what they need. And I agree with you. You can have a $500 pair of Jordans out there. Okay. You can spend a couple of dollars, $10, $20 to give to a brother to put together a project that's going to help us as a group. I just don't see a justification for it. We can come up with, I've seen guys have 24 pairs of sneakers. I'm not saying all of us. I'm just saying that, you got to look at how we spend our money. We are the biggest consumer group, black women in particular, in the country, in the world. So we got to look at the fact that even going back to the civil rights movement, a lot of what made them pass the civil rights movement was not because a lot of them try to frame this that white folks had some kind of mercy on us. It was about the fact that we stopped spending our money with them, starting with some of these boycotts, because it took revenue away from the government. So then they said, okay, we got to do something because they're not using the public transportation. My mother is from the Jim Crow South. Okay, she was born in Birmingham, Alabama, and she said even some of the white business owners used to employ some of the black people, used to try to pressure them to use the damn buses and the trains and stuff like that, like more or less trying to threaten to fire them if they didn't want to use public transportation, because they knew basically by them not spending their money with the government and with those facilities, that infrastructure, that was going to come back on. It was going to peel down their segregation and the racism in the general sense. They didn't want that. They want you to fund your own subjugation. So we've been funding our own subjugation for the longest time. So why can't we come up with a few dollars to put together for a project that's something positive? Like, you've heard of Tony Robbins, right? The guy's motivational speaker. He
Yeah,
was
yeah.
saying that one of the things was that Colonel Sanders, racist motherfucker, he was like 65 years old before he first made first million. But you know that his recipe was rejected 1,365 times before somebody actually said yes and bought his recipe. So at the end of the day, we have to have entrepreneur spirit. We're too used to having this serf employee spirit, everything. We got to go to a white person to get a job. We got to get out of that mindset. We have to start, and that's another reason why they said, well, we don't have the resources. A lot of people teach their kids to think as entrepreneurs from the beginning. We teach our kids to go find somebody to go get a job. That's what too many, especially a lot of the boomers. Is, oh, just go get a job, go get a job. And a lot of them are still saying that and not even looking around them and saying, you see all these jobs? I mean, you could go and not get a college education, get a job at a factory, buy a house and retire on that. You can't do that anymore. Most places you can't. So at the end of the day, you just keep doing what you're doing. You definitely have the qualifications. You definitely have the spirit. You got the heart to do what you're doing. And it's going to be a success one way or another. That's how I feel. Regardless
Thank
of
you,
whatever.
man. I appreciate that. What the only thing that
Yep.
pissed me off. This is what pissed me off though. I saw 171 likes, and a whole bunch of likes for the campaign. As I put it up on the community tab, I'm like, okay, well, that's at least 171 people who can give $5 if they ain't got $500. You know what I'm saying? They can give $2 if they ain't got. If they ain't got $5, you know what I'm saying? That's
So
at
you're
least.
right. And I'll say something. And I'll say this. I've donated, and I'm still gonna. I apologize. I haven't donated nothing in a while, so I feel kind of bad about that. But I'm definitely gonna put some in that coffer, man, real soon. Just been a little bit. I haven't been online as much lately because I've been working a lot. But
Thank you, man. I appreciate it, Firebrand. I mean, look,
because
it's still 54 days left in the campaign, man. But every now and then I am gonna do some motivational speaking, man. I am every now and then I'm gonna be like, okay, what the fuck y'all at? Where's the
you got
goddamn
to.
bread,
You got
man?
to.
And
You
and,
got
and,
to. No,
and,
you
and,
have
I-
to.
and you might get mad at me for saying it, or people might get irritated, like, who the fuck does he think he is? Well, I'm gonna tell you who I am. I'm a man that's motivated. I'm enthusiastic. I want to see this happen, not for me to be, some sort of fucking breakout
Absolutely.
YouTube star, but to get this shit done. So, like, if I, man, look, if all I cared about was me, you'll see my real face on this motherfucker. I'm not an ugly ass dude for real. You know what I'm saying? I probably could be, you know what I'm saying? I'm not the greatest looking dude in the world or no shit like that, but I got some shit going on behind the scenes anyway. But like, if I really wanted, if I really was about being a breakout YouTube star, man, I have women all up in this motherfucker. I'd be like, look, hey baby, you know what I'm saying? Like, what's your problem with us, man? You know what I'm saying? Like, you talk to me, baby. Like, what's real? And then, and let them just pontificate and get the emotional, man. Like, but I'm like, look, I'm fired up, man, and I want to really,
the thing is,
I want to galvanize
that's one of
the energy of the brothers, man.
Yes. Well, that's the thing. Okay. Well, I'll use the example of Kevin Samuels' platform. Kevin Samuels has a very good business model in the sense that we know that black women will spend money on what they want. See, the thing is, he's got an excellent business model because he's basically tapping into female hypergamy. And the thing about it is he's not lying to these women. He's telling them the truth. He's doing what he can to help them. But he even said, look, come on, 80% of these women or black women are overweight. 75% of them are never going to get married. Out of the 80% that are overweight, 80% of them are obese. But they've been programmed to believe that they're going to have somehow that they just can wish to have this man who has all this money, and they don't have to. There has to be an even exchange of value here, and they're not giving. I mean, come on. If I'm a millionaire, why the hell am I going? Look, I can have any kind of woman I want. Why do I want some overweight, mouthy ass woman? Who wants that? Who wants that? But they think, but I don't know. They've just been programmed to believe that don't matter, girl. That if he should like you for who you are, all the crap, and it don't really work like that. Because relationships between men and women are conditional. You're not children. You love your children unconditionally. You have relationships with women and men conditionally because there's supposed to be even exchange in value. There's supposed to be some type of contract there that you're going to build something or have some type of prosperity together as far as having a life moving forward. And if you don't have that, then what the hell is the point? I might as well just stay single and just do whatever until I run into what I want.
True indeed. I mean, especially if you're a man with money and you got options. And look, I don't have a
Yeah.
problem with Kevin Samuels' business and what he's doing. And like I said on this show before, I think Kevin
Hmm.
Samuels has a point to what he's doing. His show is
Yeah,
predicated
absolutely.
upon, trying to, because he has access to a group of guys who he's already been coaching
Yes.
and getting their style and imaging up. And so these women
Hmm.
want to have access to those kind of men, and he has a pool of men that they can
Yep.
actually, connect with. So here's the
Yes.
deal. So if you want to get access to those men, these are the kind of men you say you want. Here they are. I have access to them. Come on the show. Let me get you right. So, and then
Yes.
he does
Yep.
personal counseling for these women. So he's just exposing what he's doing behind the scenes out for
Yes.
YouTube land. But it's a point to that. Now, at the end of the day, though, like all I'm saying is having conversations about Kevin Samuels' show is not pushing the political agenda of black men forward all the way, man. It's just not enough.
No, no,
No,
no. Of course not. No, no, no. It's not.
and and
No,
and,
but
and,
no, no.
I, and
Absolutely.
I like what Kevin Samuels does. And like anytime a man stands up and says something that's positive for black men and their confidence and their capacity to speak up for themselves, I've always said this. But the only thing I'm having a problem with is us becoming myopic. Like you ever, I play chess. So, and I'll
Hmm.
usually open with the Jiuku piano. That's how I open up my game. But the whole point
Hmm.
is when you playing chess, man, you can't like you could look at one move and the person who's playing opposite of you on the other side of the board is already got their eyes on the checkmate and you sitting there focusing on winning a piece. You can't play
Hmm.
the game like that, man. You can't play
That's
the
how
game
that
myopically, man. You got to play
that's
all 64 pieces of that board with an eye in mind to what
Yes.
the other person is doing, and you got to change your strategy and correspond with what they're doing. And
I
right now,
Well,
all I'm seeing is
well,
we got a mean YouTube game. We got a mean game as it pertains to, focusing on the individual issues that arise between
yes.
individual people. But as it pertains to
Yes.
being able to, face this systemic beast, it's like we don't even want to take a shot at it.
can I can
Yeah.
I
So,
can I
well,
address that?
Kevin Samuels is not. Kevin Samuels is not dealing with that anyway. I mean, I don't consider Kevin Samuels really truly black manosphere. He has a lot of black manosphere beliefs, and he supports a lot of that. But I mean, he has a specific business model, and I see what you're saying as far as that goes. Like when they talk about like you have, for example, Mr. Palmer, he's dealing with child support. So he's dealing with something in regards to something that not well, it doesn't just affect black men. It affects black men probably a little worse as a whole, but it affects all men in general. But he's not really dealing with like, cause he's like, okay, when you want to get married, blah 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 blah, you're not going to change the system. So of course we don't, what I mean. There's some aspects that
I
his show is not going to deal with because he got a
I
specific model for what he does, and it
I,
doesn't
I gotta get
address
at that.
black men as a whole.
I gotta get at that. Hold on a minute. So
Yeah.
I'm gonna pose two different questions to Green Gorilla because they pertain to the conversation. It's very important that he understands this. Um, so Green Gorilla, uh, what do you think it is that do you believe that you have a role in the black manosphere?
Oh, for sure. I think I do. Yes, I
Yeah.
do think
Damn
so.
right.
But it's a
Okay.
small role, but
Yeah.
I think it's a role though, nonetheless.
I-
My
You
role
don't
is
have to. You don't have to be modest. I'm just saying. Do you have a role? So
yeah, yeah, I have a
yeah,
role. Yeah, I
cool.
do.
All right. So I know to address. I'm gonna address what he said and then what you spoke about. Is that okay?
Go ahead.
All right. So you said that Kevin Samuels isn't Black Manosphere, and the way that I'm going to pose this question is going to answer that. Green Gorilla, do you think that Kevin Samuels has a role that pertains to the Black Manosphere?
I personally think he does. I do think because he's got the talking points of the black manosphere. So therefore,
Yeah. Yep.
I think he serves a purpose, and he's a consciousness raiser in relation to the way he talks to the various women on his show to let them know what the average black man is thinking, especially in the
Yes.
black manosphere. But I think,
Yeah.
like, to be perfectly honest, let's be really for real honest here. Okay, you got some group of men, man, who do anything women say. Like that one dude from The Best Man on the picture who was following that little lady around and doing everything she said. You know what I'm talking about. And then
Yeah.
you had the other brothers who was clowning his ass. Like, damn, dude, do you have your own mind? You know what I'm saying? Like most of the people I hang around are gonna be like, damn, nigga, you following this woman around everywhere, nigga.
Well,
Like, I
you
mean, most
have
of the
you
people that
have
I hang
you have a role to play, and your role is what you said it was, is to get shit done. That's not that's not his role. That's not his role. I understand that some people are mad about that and don't really fully understand what it is he actually is doing. What he has done, and I'm going to say this uh and try to keep it here because a lot of people don't aren't able to wrap their heads around this fully. But what he has done has acted as a force multiplier for our talking points and went out into the broader sector and tested them and tried them. And they have worked. We have acted as a force multiplier to project our voices out into the world. Okay, so what he is doing is also important, but what you're doing is more important.
I
Yeah,
would, I would.
definitely,
Hey, look, I
definitely.
wouldn't. Hey, man, let's not frame
No,
it
no,
as
no,
that.
no, 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 no. Okay, so let me change
And
that.
look,
I'm going to change the way.
I'm
I'm
trying
going
to
to
be
change that.
modest as I can possibly be.
Yeah.
Let me explain to you why.
Okay, I understand.
Again, let me explain to you why. Again, as I've said before, if you're playing a game of chess now, but the game of real life is more complex than chess could ever be. Okay, we all can admit that. Okay, so here's the thing. Even in war, you got propagandists and you got people who are bringing issues to light, whatever, either they're doing it overtly or covertly, whatever the case may be, as long as the messaging is getting out. So I think you're right about the force multiplier idea. Okay, but I don't look. Here's the deal, and I've said this again and again. It's not that black men don't even have the talking points of the black manosphere. I think most black men do. It's just that they ain't saying shit. They don't feel like they have license to say it. Okay, they
Or
don't
they're
have license.
scared.
They don't have license to be expressive. Now I'm gonna tell you who does say the shit that the black men in the manosphere saying, but nobody's even acknowledging. All these rappers been saying this shit for years. Fuck these bitches, you know what I'm saying? Like, but now they starting to become more and more of a trick, because they starting to act like they got money and they buying shit for women. But prior to P Diddy and them, these cats been like, man, fuck you. Like DMX was on some red pill shit, like what these bitches want from a nigga. I blaze you, you blaze me. What the fuck you want? You know what I'm saying? Like, this shit's been out here forever. But like
Yeah.
rappers are allowed a space to say whatever they want, and comedians also are able to say whatever it is that they want, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
But it's just been the average layperson cannot say whatever it is that they want. It's been this veneer around what black men are actually thinking, and so when it gets uncovered, you know, now everybody wants to force you back into a space, especially in the corporate America and especially in the academy.
It's a
Like,
box. It's the concept. I don't remember. I mean, even Tommy Curry wrote about it. It's about trying to put men inside of black men in particular inside of the corrective places in a box.
Mhm. Mhm.
That's where
Well,
you
you,
belong
well,
as a black man. You're no more than
well,
a child. That's the issue. And so when
well,
we
you,
have these conversations in this
Well, hold on,
space,
hold on, hold on. We're not actually children. That's the problem. The perception, the perception of the adversary is that we're children because they can't come to a, it's like a they have internalized themselves so much
thank
that
you.
to come to the
Thank you.
reality that we're not children will basically implode on them. So they know we're not children. They know we are men or man. They know we are man, but it's their perspective that we're children. So, but because when you think about it, right, we don't really like again. I talk about movies, right? So every movie I watch, what do you see? You see the white guy. That's the hero. What is he doing? He's fighting against oppression. What movie do we have where the black man fights against oppression? We don't have that. Movies are really real. Movies are real because the portrayals are not fiction; they're actually fact. And like when you think about like Nate Parker, right? He did the Birth of a Nation. He spends the fourth quarter of the movie fighting against the slave masters, and then they made the ending where he turns himself in to be, to be lynched, right? I mean, that's kind of like a lot of BS, but that's how they wanted to end the movie. Why? Because they can. It's like with the movie Queen of Slim. At the end, they get murdered after they shot the cop. They got away. Somebody snitched on them. They still get gunned down by the police, right? Because they can't allow it to be shown that we are victorious in our fight against adversity in any capacity. So that's how they eternalize us. We got to keep these people in a box because they are men, and I mean they are men. And if they realize that what they should be doing, like what Green Gorilla is doing, the documentary. See, I think people want to fight with their fists and guns too much, but the game, like he keeps trying to tell you, is so complex. The documentary is like a nuclear bomb. When it does come out, it's going to have the effect of an armed revolution. It's going to have the effect of a boycott. It's going to have all those complexities in it because it'll be on celluloid. They cannot erase the history being written by someone who, or his story being written by someone who is not the victor of the story.
Well, let me just say this. Let me chime in, man, and say this. Look, to me, film and like is spiritual propaganda, man. Hold on for 1 second. Hold on 1 second, fellas. Go continue this conversation.
Yeah. I was gonna say no. I'll just say I mean,
Doc Johnson was good, man.
I mean, the power of film is being underrated right now, right? That's why we're all on YouTube. Think about how YouTube works, right? We come on here, we give them free work, they sell advertising, they cut little minuscule checks to people called YouTubers, right? But we giving the free content, we giving the work, we giving the copyrights away, we giving them all that stuff. If you ever want to see how YouTube's making their bread, just read the terms and conditions when you start a channel, and you'll understand how valuable you are for them. But what I was saying was that we're underrating the power of film, and I think that the brothers really want to be out here. They want to be in gunfights. They want to be doing all this crazy stuff. But it's like Gordon Parks in his documentary. I forgot what it's called. Autumn something. He talks about how he was in the car with the Black Panthers, and they're like, "Where's your gun at?" And he's like, "This is my gun right here," and points to his camera. And the Black Panther dude go, "You're gonna need more than that." And he talks about how that Black Panther got murdered a couple of weeks later, but the photos he took were in Life magazine and seen all over the world, and had a more significant impact on the whole Black Panther movement than bucking a couple of shots from a 38. That's what I don't think people are understanding.
So here's the deal to me, right? So I know that like movies, television, books,
Photography.
photography, all of these things have a deeper impact, and they're more they impress themselves more indelibly on your unconscious mind than conversations like regular, like philosophical conversations with people, back and forth, exchange of reasons. They just do. I mean, like human beings are natural storytellers. That's what they do. Human beings impress moral value and they make sense of the world through stories. This is what we do. You know what I'm saying? Like if you see any movie, if the movie is bad, it won't have a moral lesson in it. You know what I'm saying? And that's why so many bad movies that we make, because we don't have moral lessons that are taught beforehand, or like moral arguments prepared, and to have the characters flesh them out. Now I'm just saying it's spiritual warfare. Also, it creates archetypes for who is what and how they're supposed to be treated and where they fit into the social hierarchy. That's what film does as well. Now, I've been showing like a series. I've been doing like a series on YouTube about anti-black misandry in the big six companies. I don't know if you've had the time to watch them or to check them out. Now, I haven't gone in depth because I can't go into that much in depth on YouTube. You know what I'm saying, on a live show. But I don't think brothers are really deeply into it as much as I would like for them to be anyway. But if anything, man, your control of your image and your iconography is more important than anything else. That's the biggest problem right there, because you might not even have to fight a war if people have a positive image of you. You might not even have to suffer from any kind of abuse or stigmatization if the image about you is one that's uplifting and wholesome and positive. But like we already know that positive images for black men are not there on the screen as much as they need to be, or in television, or like on
Mm-hmm.
Netflix, Prime, or all these other offshoots. You know what I'm saying? 'Cause, right now they got so many splinters to the game of television and movies now. It's just different than what it
Mm-hmm.
used to be. But
Mm-hmm.
my whole thing is we do got brothers, man, doing comics and stuff like that, but they don't have an outlet and to distribute what it is that they're doing, and they don't have the money and the funding to get their projects polished. You know what I'm saying? So, but now you're seeing a cadre of women who are able to do this shit, and everything they doing is colored with this intersectional lens, and it's everywhere, man.
They on
And-
salary. They on salary though.
Well,
That's why.
well,
Don't
exactly.
be
well,
fooled.
And
They
so,
on
yeah.
salary.
Well,
They
and
getting
so,
paid to do that.
so what I'm
well,
saying
here's the
is,
thing. Oh,
and so what? Look, I'm gonna tell you what my job is. I'm the resident asshole.
Hmm.
Okay, a philosopher's an asshole. They kill philosophers.
Hmm.
Socrates killed. They wanted to kill
Hmm.
Aristotle. You know what I'm
Hmm.
saying? Like philosophers are the people that tell you shit that you don't want to hear, but you need to hear.
Hmm.
mm-hmm.
That's what a philosopher is. A philosopher goes ham on everybody. A philosopher is that motherfucker who's gonna be critical of everyone for any damn reason. And that's what he's supposed to be able to do. Now, either you value that or you don't value that. Like for a group of people that want their ego stroked, a philosopher is not good. He signals
Well,
evil to these
well,
people.
well, let's break this down to the where it comes down to. The only way that white supremacy is ever going to get dismantled is going to have to be done through black men. Black women ain't going to do it. It's going to have to be done through black men. You have a group of people who were brought up on a hull of a ship where half of them died. So the strongest had to survive to get here. This country would not have the wealth that it has if it was not for black male slaves. The stocks market was started because of us. Okay, the stock market we have right now. So at the end of the day, we're the threat to white supremacy, whether we actually are actively a threat or passively a threat. So until we create some type of structure so where we can fight back or create some type of, some type of apparatus, then we're going to continue to be under attack. And at the end of the day, black women in this country have never really been our women. Okay, they never have because we've never had any control of whether or not they were with us or not. At the end of the day, so we definitely can't count on them. I mean, I'm saying that some sisters aren't down and they don't support the cause. Of course, there are some, but at the end of the day, how much power do they really have by
Yeah,
themselves?
there are some women like you said, there are some women there who are down and who don't get caught in all of this anti-black male shit. But
Mm-hmm.
but they're teaching this shit in schools, and so
Mm-hmm.
this is why you're starting to see like it's reaching its full bloom right now. Like this
Mm-hmm.
proliferation of this anti-black male sentiment. I think it's reached its apex right now. Like I don't see how they can defend it. You got Black Lives Matter. They just collected $10 billion. Motherfuckers don't even know where the money is, and and internally they're arguing about where it is. And there's no transparency. And the woman just appointed herself the executive director of the international organization. Like, how the fuck you gonna do that? Where's the money? Okay, well I don't have to answer these questions anymore. And at the
What's
same,
funny?
all of this shit was made off black males being killed because we're the primary
Bounties, like I
demographic.
Yep.
said,
Yep.
bounties on our heads. We got bounties on our heads, like I said before. I mean, Black Lives Matter is just putting bounties on our heads. It's
They're not a grassroots organization anyway. I mean, they're funded by George Soros or whoever else is
Well,
involved.
we ain't
They,
gonna
they,
we ain't gonna go into all of that. I was just commenting that the point is that black men have all the value, right? We have to start realizing that. Pimps say you are the prize. You know what I'm saying? We got to start seeing ourselves like that. And I don't think a lot of us see ourselves as the prize. And that's why we're having the funding issues that we do, because if we saw ourselves as the prize, for those of us, I think the ones that can't speak, the ones that got that 9 to 5, that they can't be like, you know, say what they feel about whatever they want to talk about, need to be the first ones to drop these donations to Green Gorilla, because the documentary is going to speak for them. That's
Well,
who I think the first people need to be in line for this.
let me let me let me let me kind of put some things to rest, because it's important that Green Gorilla doesn't become demotivated. Um, this type of conversation has been happening in this space, and your addition to it has been invaluable. So this thing that you're doing right now with the project and the film that you're attempting to produce,
Yeah,
just give him more time, man.
I am.
Don't worry about it.
Look,
Don't worry about it. Give him more time.
and look, man. Anybody that knows me knows, man. Like, even when I'm working, so I used to do construction work, and I'd be telling people, man, like, get your hands on a bar, dog. What the fuck you waiting for? You know what I'm saying? Like, what are y'all waiting for? Or, like, we be on a project working on a house or something like that, and we might be stripping the floor down, and we're about to re-shine it, repolish it. You know what I'm saying? Put some paint on it or whatever. So
here's how it goes. You did all that, and you should know. I know you know. Did it happen instantly when you were building whatever you were building? Whatever you were building?
No.
These things take time. You gotta let it brew, man. You gotta let it sit in the pot a while. Let it simmer. Get up to temp. Put in some seasoning. You know what I mean? And cook that shit up and make sure it's good when it's done. Just take your time though. Don't be worried about motherfuckers naysaying. Do what you have to do because it's necessary.
Hey, look, look. Yesterday was just a kick in the ass, man, to motivate motherfuckers. I was being a drill sergeant yesterday. That's all. I'm just saying, like, I was, because I want to see this project come to fruition, man.
Do that too.
It's your passion project. It's your passion project. That's good. You got a passion project.
And I want other brothers to be as passionate about it as I am. That's all. And to give them a reason for which they ought to be passionate about it. And the only reason, look, again, I'm a practical individual, but like also I do work on impulse sometimes, man. So, but I am practical. But I do know that human beings are emotional reciprocators. If you show them you're motivated, they'll get motivated, goddamn, as well. You know what I'm saying? Bottom line. So I'm like, let's go, let's get it. Where's the money at? Let's get it. Let's put some money into the pot, man. And within an hour and a half, man, I had $2,000 more donated to the program. So
building off of that, I think that's a good way to go. I think if you're going to come on every day, you should announce that you have an objective to raise for this show and stick to that, and track it throughout the show, whether it's an hour or whatever, how long the show is. You should say, hey, I'm on the day. I'm looking to get X amount by the end of the show. And stick to that. I think if you put a figure out there, it might an actual objective number. No, that's the wrong term. An actual figure, figurative number. Yeah, a goal. People will have something to say. Oh, he's only $20 out for the day. I got that. He's only $100 out. I got that. So I think.
But I also know, like you said, a lot of brothers don't have discretionary income. My only thing is, look. Let me put it this way. Let me just say this. If you can't give, promote it. It don't take shit to share it. Yeah. If you can't buy into it, you can promote the project, man, because promotion is worth more than even actual money, man. So
word of mouth.
You know what I'm saying? Promote, push the link on your social media, man. Push the anybody who's already dedicated and donated to the project. They can go to the Indiegogo campaign again and use the social media tools there in order to put the shit on their Twitter pages and their Facebook pages. Bottom line, that's all you got to do, and do it once a week.
If I could play devil's advocate though, I think PK Angel gave you the smartest piece of the game though. Hop on the other panels, the YouTubers that you have alliances with. Hop on the panel and cross promote. Utilize them. I think that would be a lot more quicker than.
Right, and look, I don't think that there's anybody personally against it. I just don't feel like they think they're not as passionate as I am about it, and they don't see the vision of what I see.
That doesn't matter.
Got to parlay. That doesn't matter. Yeah, that doesn't matter. You got to parlay.
Okay, I'm down to parlay. So I'll be intruding spaces then. So But I don't want to, make people think that the only reason I'm in that space is to push a fucking documentary. This is bigger than that to me, though. You
No,
know what
no,
I'm
no,
saying?
no. It's not even about that. But if I can be honest with you, I've been watching a lot of people a long time, and I can say that as far as I'm concerned, and this is why I come on here. You know, I come on here every once in a while with you and chop it up. But I feel like you're the most authentic, believe it or not. I'm not trying to diss nobody, but of the many that I watch, outside of like Dr. T. Hansen, BGS, and Rom Wells and Doctor Neil, I think that's his last name. I feel like you're also authentic. You know what I'm saying? So if you, as long as you stay with the authentic brothers, there's a lot of them out there. I can't really name it that many, but of many people that I watch, I feel like you're authentic. So I don't think it should come off like that. You know what I'm saying? I
And
think
let
it'd be
me
different.
and let me reassure you, because it seems like you're not self-assured. All right. Why are you on the defensive when you're saying that you want to be on the offensive?
Oh, for sure.
Get
I'm
on
just
the offense, man. Put your dick. I told you before. I told
put
you
your
a
dick
minute
on
ago.
the mat. Put your dick
Go
on the mat.
put
Okay,
it
all
on.
right,
Put it
dog.
on. Put it out there.
Okay, dog. All right,
Don't be
man.
scared, man.
I ain't scared. I'm
And
scared.
if they, and if
I
they,
ain't
and if
scared.
they, and let's really go on in. Let's go all in with this, right? Let's all put our dicks out there. If Green Gorilla, if certain people turn you down, you know what you got to do. I mean, you can do you can deal with it how you want to deal with it. But if certain people turn you down, you know what you got to do about it. You know what I'm saying? I'll just leave it at that because that's really where we at right now. It's 2021, and I promise myself I would not be having these conversations, or I don't plan on listening to them when I'm 65. I already promised myself that. So, I don't see how that's gonna. I don't see that happening, and I usually keep my word to myself. So, but yeah, if people are gonna give you, like, nah, man, I'm not with it. I just want to do the memes, or nah, man, I don't know. I don't want to see you. I don't want to see you. How you say? I don't want to see you be more impactful than me. You gotta do what you gotta do about that. You know what I mean? The people need to know who's authentic and who's not authentic. You know what I'm saying? A purge. I don't want to use that word. It's such a disastrous word to use. But if we're gonna go forward, sometimes we gotta just trim the fat. And I remember having a conversation with some brothers. They were part of this organization called the Black Superhero Organization. They were like a political militant organization, and we were chopping it up, and they were talking about getting everybody down. And I was like, nah, man. I was like, before you start the revolution, you're gonna have to knock off like 80% of your own people. And they were speechless because they didn't understand that it's a larger part of your enemies is just in your own ranks. And if you don't understand that, you're never gonna win the ultimate war. You're gonna end up like all the other cats that didn't realize that.
For sure, for sure. Well, we gonna make it happen, man. Look, we got 54 days left, man. We gonna make this shit happen, man. Promote the shit on your 55 days. So
Long enough. That's long enough. It's only a
let's
grand a day. That's only a grand a day. It's a
let's get
grand
it
a day.
done, man.
Hey,
We at 6 G's right now. We need to get that motherfucker to 7 G's, man. You know what I'm saying? So in the next day or so, we at 12% of the goal. You
ain't
know,
there
we
a um ain't there a way you could put the objective on your StreamYard, and when they donate it counts down? I think I've seen somebody do that before.
yeah, I could probably do that. Yeah, I could probably get that popping.
You need
Yeah,
to
I could
talk.
probably,
You know what? I hate putting out other YouTubers' name, but I'll just say this: you need to get with KS because KS stopped his show when the money ain't right. He straight stops the show when the money
right,
ain't right.
right. Yeah, I know,
You
man.
need to talk to him.
Yeah, we all do the same shit, man.
Yeah, I
Hey, look,
mean,
man, much love to y'all, brothers, man,
all
and thank
right,
you
all
for the
right.
advice and the encouragement.
Yeah,
And if you haven't already, man, drop a $5 bill, man. If you can't do that, man, drop a 10. If you can't drop, well, if you can't drop a 10, drop a 5. But if you can drop 100 on the project, do that shit, man. Become an associate producer, man. You know,
that's what's
we
up.
we just need to get this thing popping, man. That's all I'm saying, man. So, at any rate, man, y'all be peaceful, man. It's been lovely fucking with y'all this evening, man. I'm about to
You
go
too.
ahead and
All
nurse
right then.
myself. So
Peace out,
y'all be
brother.
good, man.
All right,
Yeah,
peace.
peace.
Thanks.
Peace.
Keep it up. Later.
Yeah. One. All right. Well, the show has come to an end, man. Y'all be peaceful, man. I'll holler at y'all later. One.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
phenomenon. I shine like Orion. I came in a rap gang to smack it up like Heron, transform it like Megatron. Wait, like Yamatron. Most rappers are some peons. I'ma starve them like Ramadan. I'm troublesome. You don't really want no troublesome, cause I pop guns like hood chicks do bubble gum. I been dumb, gon' stay that way till kingdom come. When the son of man unleash a demon, a polygon. I'm heavy, son. Got more knowledge than Farrakhan, more game than Cap. Comma that bitch, some name Don Juan. Stay lit off some Shandon. Maybe Bacardi Ram, stay drink with some Nordstrom. Call me that Dapper Don, more violent than Genghis Khan. The members of Taliban, niggas faker than Silicon. Get hit like a .com, like soldiers in Lebanon. I'm bringing that red rum. When I get through with you, son, you gon' think I'll see rap. I carry weight like a heavyweight. Bake more cakes than patty cake. Watch the fiend salivate. You a lightweight, bantamweight. Better contemplate. If you violate, make you levitate to the pearly gates. I fascinate when I conversate from the show me state where these niggas left the hate and hot murder rate. What a waste. But this flow is just a taste of God's grace. Shining this light in the ugly place. In the prophecy, got more wisdom than Socrates' philosophies. You don't really want no parts of me. Can't you see? I'm slicker than Mephistopheles, stronger than Hercules, more dangerous than Damocles. The MCs trying me pretty please. I wet up they white tees, knock them out they wallabies. Now they touch my deliries. For coming up short of the little C's when I break out the killer bees. I study music by Karkasi, hit chicks look like Ashanti. When I'm breaking them off, they yell at odd poppy. You rack rappers is sloppy, you can't stop me with that. We can sorry, copy, malarkey. I'm a monster like Frankenstein, rock harder than Palestine. You slimes, dropping dimes, a snake and serpentine. Can't stand to see me glow like Nas with his big shine. All you haters cold in it, cold sores need calamine. But my hot shit like red bricks hitting your head, leave the sour taste up in your mouth like lemon heads, like Simply Red. Wasted some years up in the fans when I touched down. Already red, that gave me head. I got higher vision for higher living. I'm highly driven. I'm acting women like it's some sort of sick religion. Driving an Impala, sitting on it, these 20 inches, and they spinning just like the planets in the solar system.
Black country people, over in Africa, down to America. Black country people, we make all the world go round and around, yes. Black country people, up in Canada, down to Jamaica. Black country people, we make all the world go round and around.